Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really jumping into something practical, mastering real-life English phone calls. Our whole goal here, to seriously boost your confidence, that phone rings and you've got to talk in English. Think of this as your ultimate guide to handling all sorts of phone situations effectively.
It's such a unique challenge, isn't it? Because phone calls, they're not just about getting the grammar right.
Right.
When you can't see the other person, so much else comes into play. Your tone, the strategy you use, even those subtle cultural things, they become really crucial.
Absolutely.
And the source material we've pulled together for this deep dive, it gives you some fantastic insights, really helps you navigate everything from, just casual chats to, pretty high stakes emergency calls.
Okay, so where do we even start with all this? I think for a lot of people, the easiest place is often with, the people we know best, friends and family. Let's kick off with those everyday chats that, hopefully feel the most natural. So first up, catching up with a friend. The main point here is usually pretty simple, right? Just casual conversation, maybe making some plans.
Yeah, keeping it light.
And our sources really point to using relaxed greetings, easy small talk, just keeping that warm, friendly tone going.
Exactly. In that dialogue we looked at between Jane and Mark, Mark starts with, "Hey, Jane, it's Mark. Long time no talk."
Yes.
Super casual.
Yeah, and Jane jumps right back with, "Mark, hi. Wow, it's in ages."
That immediately sets that informal, friendly vibe, doesn't it?
It really does. And these are great ways to start if you haven't spoken in a while.
Yeah.
The material also had phrases like busy as usual.
Oh, yeah, Jane used that.
Right. And she said her new project was keeping her on her toes. That's a nice idiom. It means you're alert and busy.
I like that one. And Mark mentioned he was swamped for a while with a job.
Swamped. That's stronger than just busy. It really paints a picture of being, almost buried in work. Totally.
Yeah.
And ultimately, with friends, you often want to hang out or catch up later.
Yeah.
Right? Just spend time together, share what's new.
Absolutely. And the key things that make these calls work: being warm, personal, starting with that easy small talk, "How have you been?"
Simple, but effective.
Yeah, and showing enthusiasm in your voice, using positive words. Our sources also highlighted active listening, responding with supportive things like Jane saying, "That's awesome, I'm happy for you."
Yeah, it makes a difference.
Huge difference. And if you get interrupted or need a sec, just a quick "hang on a sec" is totally fine in that context.
Okay, so from friends, we often shift to family calls. These are usually about, warm, caring chats with parents, close relatives.
A slightly different feel sometimes.
Yeah, and a big takeaway here is how much your tone showing affection, being patient, really shapes the conversation, especially with, those typical family interactions.
Definitely. In that example call, the person says, "I wanted to check in and say hi to their mom," just simple and direct.
And the mom's reply, "That's so sweet. We miss hearing your voice around here." That immediately builds that connection, doesn't it?
It does. And even little things like the dad using a nickname like kiddo, even for an adult child, it just adds that layer of affection.
Yeah, those personal touches.
And when the child mentions maybe visiting, the dad says, "Music to my ears." Great idiom for just pure happiness about news.
And the mom promising a big meal, telling them to bring a big appetite. Classic mom move.
Totally. Or the dad admitting guilty as charged when teased about being busy, just a lighthearted way to own it.
The dialogue also showed using, by the way, to smoothly change topics.
Right, and the mom using no pressure about calling more often, just showing it's always welcome.
So the strategies here are really about that caring, patient tone. Apparently, smiling while you talk actually comes through in your voice.
It really does. It adds warmth you can actually hear. Using terms of endearment, if that's your family style, helps too.
And giving, brief but honest answers to personal questions.
Yeah, and just sharing little bits about your life to keep them included. And a good cultural point from the sources: you generally don't use formal titles like Mr. or Mrs. with your own parents in English-speaking families.
Good to know.
What's really fascinating here, I think, is how much these personal calls rely on subtle cues. It's not just the words, it's the energy, the tone, how you convey that genuine connection and warmth.
Okay, so we've talked about connection in personal calls, but what about when it's less about warmth and more about, getting something done? Let's switch gears to those practical calls, making arrangements, starting with making a doctor's appointment.
Right. These tend to be much more structured. There's a kind of pattern to them.
A predictable rhythm.
Yeah, exactly. You need to give the necessary info clearly, politely. The receptionist will almost always ask something like, "What's the reason for your appointment?"
And you just give a brief symptom. Like a persistent cough.
Yep. Concise is good. They might also ask if it's urgent versus non-urgent to figure out if you need something same day.
Okay. And they might talk about finding a slot, meaning an available time.
Exactly, an open time slot. Or they might say they'll pencil you in, which just means scheduling it tentatively.
Pencil you in. Got it.
And they'll usually need to pull up your file, so you'll give your name, maybe date of birth. And they'll likely remind you to bring your insurance card.
And at the end, there's always that confirmation step, right?
Always, like, just to confirm, that's Tuesday the 15th at 4:30 p.m. You want to make sure you heard it right.
So tips for this. Being prepared seems obvious.
Crucial. Have your calendar, doctor's name, insurance details right there. Use polite, direct language. "I'd like to make an appointment. May I have, please? Thank you for your help."
Simple politeness goes a long way.
It does. And listen carefully. Confirm those details back. Don't be afraid to ask them to repeat something if you missed it. Like, "Sorry, did you say Tuesday the 15th or 50th? It happens.
Okay, good advice. Now, how about restaurants? Booking a table versus, say, ordering takeout. The goal is similar, arranging something, but the feel is different.
Oh, completely different. It's amazing how formality shifts even with the same kind of place.
So making a reservation that's more formal?
Generally, yes. You'd use more complete sentences, be polite. "I'd like to make a dinner reservation, please." They'll ask things like, "What evening?" and "How many people will be in your party?"
Party, meaning the group size.
Right. And they might say they'll pencil you in and confirm, "Okay, that's a table for 4 under Sandra Foster," using your last name.
But ordering takeout for delivery? Much more casual.
Way more casual, shorter, direct. "Hi, can I order a large pepperoni pizza for delivery?" They'll probably just ask, name and address. Anything else? Cash or card? Quick and to the point.
So different levels of formality there. Key vocabulary seems to be things like party, seat, as a verb meaning accommodate.
Yeah, and knowing the difference between delivery and pickup or takeaway.
And the tips are similar to the doctor's appointment. Have details ready.
Absolutely. Date, time, number for reservations. Your order, address, phone number for takeout. And speak clearly, especially spelling names or addresses, like Foster, Foster.
Right. And knowing when to use titles Mr. M is for the formal reservation, but probably not needed for the pizza guy.
Exactly. It's all about context, which brings up a really interesting point. How do you know when to be formal or informal? It's not just about mirroring, is it?
No, it feels like there's more to it.
I think it often comes down to the purpose and efficiency. Formal calls, like reservations or appointments, need clear, structured info exchange, so politeness and full sentences help avoid errors.
Whereas ordering pizza is about speed.
Exactly. Speed and maybe a bit of casual rapport. So being prepared isn't just about knowing what to say, it's about freeing up your brain space to kind of adapt to that subtle shift in expected style.
That makes sense. Adapting on the fly. Okay, so what about when things go, well, wrong? This is where it gets tricky, right? Customer service calls, tech support.
The problem-solving calls. Let's start with customer service, maybe making a complaint, like about a wrong charge on a bill or a faulty product.
Yeah, nobody loves making these calls.
Definitely not. But our sources show pretty clearly how much your approach, especially your tone, affects the outcome. We saw 2 versions of a complaint call.
The good way and the bad way.
Kind of, yeah. The polite, effective way. The caller stays calm, clear. "I'm calling about an issue with my bill. I see a charge for $49 for premium services I don't recognize. I'd like to dispute that charge." They give their account info calmly, confirm the fix.
Okay, sounds reasonable. And the other version.
The angry, less effective one. The caller starts shouting, "You people overcharged me. This $49 fee is ridiculous. Get rid of it now." They might initially refuse to give info, complain about being slapped with a fee.
Yeah.
Just generally agitated.
And does that work?
Sometimes they still get the charge removed, maybe as a one-time courtesy, but the interaction is negative, and they probably don't get any extra reassurance or help. Sometimes a bit of controlled frustration is okay, but the key is controlled.
Right, not just letting loose.
Exactly. So the effective strategies. Use I statements. "I was charged," not "you messed up." Have your details ready, account number, dates. Acknowledge the agent's help. "Thanks, I appreciate that." And be clear about what you want. "I'd like that charge removed, please." Calmly asking for the resolution.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, tech support. Troubleshooting. Ugh.
Yeah, these can test your patience. It's all about describing the technical issue clearly and then, crucially, following their instructions step by step.
Even if you think you've already done it.
Especially then. Patience and clarity are key. And don't worry about jargon. In one example, the caller says their internet is cutting out intermittently.
Meaning on and off.
Right. And the agent might ask about the lights on the modem versus router. People often mix those up. Then they'll guide you through things like restart your router.
The classic turn it off and on again.
The very same. If it's more complicated, they might need to run a test on their end or open a support ticket.
Getting a ticket number. That's important.
Very important for follow-up. They might mention instability in the line or an outside line issue, meaning it's their problem, not your equipment. And if they use terms you don't know, maybe call you tech savvy when you're not.
Just ask them to explain.
Absolutely. Could you explain that in simpler terms? Is perfectly fine.
So strategies here. Patience, cooperation, have your device info ready.
Yep. Model numbers, error messages, don't sweat the jargon, ask for clarification. Use mute or hold if you need to step away. And always get the ticket number and say thanks. You know, it connects back to what we were saying. It's not just about being calm. In these calls, you're often the agent's eyes and ears on the ground.
Right, because they can't see the equipment.
Exactly. So your ability to clearly describe what's happening and follow instructions accurately makes you part of the solution, not just a customer with a problem. That teamwork almost always gets things fixed faster.
Interesting perspective. Okay, let's shift again. Into the professional world. These calls feel like they carry even more weight, don't they?
They certainly can. How you sound, what you say, it all reflects on your professionalism.
Let's start with something common. Calling in sick to work.
Ah, yes. The key takeaways here are being brief, responsible, and professional. Our sources had two really good contrasting examples.
The right way and the wrong way again.
Pretty much. The proper call. Employee is clear, early. Hi, manager's name. I won't be able to come in today. I'm not feeling well. Brief reason, like caught a bad flu, running a fever, apologizes for inconvenience, mentions it's early notice.
And crucially,
they proactively say how they've covered their work. I've already sent the team my notes for the meeting, or I've briefed Jake on the client issue, taking responsibility.
Okay, that sounds good. And the bad example.
The improper call, employee sounds groggy, calls late, is vague. Yeah, I'm not going to make it in today. Maybe mentions, my stomach's really messed up. You can hear the TV in the background.
Oh, dear.
And instead of saying how work is covered, they might just say, maybe someone else can take it. It just sounds unprofessional and unreliable.
Big difference.
Yeah.
So tips are, know the company policy, call early, be brief with the reason.
Exactly. Apologize for the inconvenience and definitely say what you've done to manage your workload or who knows what's going on. Sound awake and maybe plan to send a follow-up email or update later.
Got it. Okay, next professional scenario. Calling a company receptionist, trying to reach someone or leave a message.
This is where that formal business etiquette really comes into play, especially dealing with receptionists or assistants, sometimes called gatekeepers.
Right, so you start formally.
Yes. Good morning, this is Rachel from XYZ Corporation. May I speak with Mr. Patel, please? Clear, polite, identifies yourself and your company.
And the receptionist might say,
one moment, please, I'll check if he's available. Or perhaps, I'm sorry, he's in a meeting at the moment.
And if he's not available?
You politely ask, would you mind if I leave a message for him? Then you give a clear message. Your name, company, reason for calling, keep it brief, and your callback number. Asking them to call back at his earliest convenience is a standard polite phrase.
At his earliest convenience, okay.
And the receptionist will usually confirm, certainly I'll make sure he gets your message.
So keys here. Be prepared with your name, company, purpose, polite, direct language. Be ready to spell your name if needed.
And remember the parts of a good message. Name, company, reason, number. Repeat the number clearly, especially for voicemail. And a big tip, treat the receptionist courteously. They're allies, not obstacles.
Good point. Okay, final one in this section, and it's a big one, the phone job interview.
Oh yeah, high stakes here. You need to sound confident, professional, all without any visual cues to help you. Your voice has to do all the work.
And the sources showed, again, a good version and a not so good version.
Starkly different versions. The strong candidate. Prepared, articulate, polite. Starts professionally. Hi, Miss Smith. I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. Answers questions using examples, maybe implicitly using that STAR method situation. Task, action, result.
And asks good questions at the end.
Crucial, insightful questions like, Could you describe what success looks like for this role in the first 6 months? Or what's the team culture like? Shows genuine interest. Sounds enthusiastic.
And the weak candidate.
Oh boy. Takes the call in a noisy cafe. Background clatter. Sounds distracted. Yeah, this is Alex. Vague answers. I've done some projects. Maybe even bad mouths. A past boss. Management sucks.
Yikes.
And their only question at the end is about salary. It just screams unprepared and unprofessional.
So strategies for success here are huge. Environment is number one.
Absolutely. Quiet room, have your resume, notes, water ready. Stand up or sit up straight. It helps your breathing and energy. Smile. It comes through in your voice.
Speak clearly, don't rush.
Use professional language. Avoid slang or too many fillers. Highlight skills with specific examples. Never, ever badmouth former employers. Structure your answers. Show enthusiasm.
And always ask those thoughtful questions.
Always. It shows you're engaged and thinking critically about the role, not just about the paycheck. You know, what's really key here is how much the unseen stuff matters.
Your quiet room, your posture, having your notes ready.
Yeah,
It all translates directly into how confident and prepared you sound.
right. The preparation becomes audible in a way.
Exactly. A phone interview is absolutely a performance, and those background details really shape the impression you make.
Okay, powerful stuff. Finally, let's tackle the most critical calls, the ones we hope we never have to make but need to be ready for. Emergencies. Dialing 911 or 11 or 999.
Right. In these situations, clarity and calmness are absolutely everything. And following the dispatcher's instructions precisely.
There you call, the answer.
They'll say, 911, what's your emergency? You speak the problem clearly. I need an ambulance. There's been a car accident. A car hit a pedestrian.
Then location is paramount. Where did this happen? Then they'll need key details fast. When did it happen? Is the pedestrian conscious, breathing, bleeding badly?
And they give instructions while help is on the way.
Yes. They'll say, we have an ambulance on the way, and might tell you, apply pressure on the wound with a clean cloth, or ask about the driver. Is the driver still there? Or if there are bystanders who can help direct traffic.
Wow. Okay. So tips for this nightmare scenario.
Call sooner rather than later. Don't hesitate. Try desperately to stay calm. Take a deep breath before you speak. Prioritize the absolute key info. Location first, then what happened, then how many people are hurt.
Location, nature, number hurt. Got it.
Speak clearly and loudly yell if you have to over noise. Listen carefully and follow every instruction they give. First aid, safety advice.
And don't hang up.
Never hang up until they tell you to. They might need more information or have more instructions. Use simple, clear words, not breathing, not complex medical terms, and know the local emergency number wherever you are. You know, while we hope you never use this, the scenario really boils down the essence of all effective communication, doesn't it?
How so?
It's pure clarity, conciseness, and the ability to listen and respond under incredible pressure. It just highlights how training your voice to deliver critical information effectively can literally make all the difference.
Wow. Yeah, a powerful reminder. We've covered so much ground today, from just chatting with friends and family to booking things, solving problems, handling work calls, interviews, right up to emergencies.
A huge range.
Yeah. Hopefully this deep dive has given you really practical tools, strategies, phrases for pretty much any English phone call you might face.
Absolutely. We've gone from the totally casual to the absolutely critical. So maybe as you think about the next time you have to make or take a call in English, just consider this. How could applying maybe just one specific thing we talked about today, one phrase, one strategy, unlock a whole new level of confidence for you on that call?
That's a great thought. Just one small change.
Exactly. Remember, consistent practice, even just mentally rehearsing or shadowing some of these dialogues, that's what builds fluency and makes it feel natural over time.
That's really encouraging. A fantastic thought to end on. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into English phone calls. Go out there and use these skills. You can absolutely do this.
All right. Get ready to decode some seriously colorful language, because today we're diving deep into the world of American English idioms.
Ooh, idioms.
Yeah, you know those quirky sayings that make you scratch your head and think, wait, what?
Like raining cats and dogs.
Exactly.
Or kick the bucket.
See, you're already speaking the language.
I heard a few.
And we're going to uncover a whole treasure trove of them thanks to your fantastic suggestion, Advanced English Conversation Dialogues by Jackie Boland.
This book is jam-packed with idioms. It's amazing.
My first thought was, how are we going to cover all of this in one deep dive? It's like a crash course in cultural fluency.
Right. But as I started flipping through it, I realized each idiom is like a mini story, a little snapshot of culture and humor all rolled into one.
That's so true. And that's probably why they're so memorable, right? You can picture them, you can feel them. They're not just words on a page.
And they add so much personality to your language.
Yeah.
It's like if you can sprinkle these into your conversations naturally, it shows you're not just speaking English, you're understanding the culture behind it.
It's like you've cracked the code. You're in the club.
Yeah, you're not just a tourist anymore.
Exactly. So we're going to tackle this book theme by theme: money, health, relationships, work, that kind of thing.
Okay, that was good.
So you'll have a whole arsenal of idioms ready to go for any situation. Let's start with something universally relatable: money. You know, everyone's got a money story.
Money talks, right?
Oh, there you go. Another idiom. But the book starts with cost an arm and a leg and uses the classic example of buying a car. I mean, haven't we all felt that way at some point?
Oh, absolutely. That feeling of like your wallet is cringing.
Like, ouch, that hurts.
But what's interesting is this idiom isn't just about something being expensive. It goes a bit deeper. It suggests a level of like sacrifice involved.
Right.
Like imagine way back when bartering was more common, giving up a limb was like the ultimate price.
Oh, wow. I never thought of it like that.
Now, obviously, no one's actually losing body parts over a car these days. But the idiom captures that feeling of this is going to hurt my bank account, but I really, really want it.
Okay, so it's not just about the money itself, but the feeling of what you're giving up to get it. Makes sense.
The emotional cost, yeah.
And the book also mentioned break the bank, again, with that car example. Are those two interchangeable? Cost an arm and a leg versus break the bank?
Well, they're both talking about big expenses, definitely. But break the bank takes it a step further. It's not just a dent in your savings. It implies complete and utter financial ruin.
Oh, wow.
Like you've wiped out your accounts, maybe even gone into debt. Think of an actual bank vault, like smashed open and empty. That's the level of devastation we're talking about.
Okay, so if cost an arm and a leg is like wincing at a high price tag, break the bank is a full-blown financial meltdown. Got it. Now, the book also brings up living within your means, which seems pretty straightforward, right? Spend less than you earn, that kind of thing.
Yeah, basic budgeting.
But I feel like there's a whole philosophy behind that idiom, isn't there?
Absolutely. It's about being financially responsible, making sure your spending aligns with your income for sure. But it's not just about practicality. It reflects a certain mindset, you know, like a way of approaching money that emphasizes stability and long-term security over those instant gratification purchases.
So if someone is constantly breaking the bank or things are always costing them an arm and a leg, they're probably not the best at living within their means. I guess the opposite of that would be what the book called splashing out.
You got it. Splashing out is all about indulging, treating yourself, maybe even being a little bit reckless with your spending. Like think of a lavish vacation, a designer handbag. Those are all splashing out moments.
Okay, so we've gone from the pain of big expenses to the joy of treating yourself, all within the realm of money idioms.
There's an idiom for everything.
But everyone gets tired of talking about finances eventually. So let's shift gears to a topic we all experience: health. And the book uses the phrase feeling under the weather, which honestly I feel like I've used a million times when calling in sick to work.
Oh, it's a classic. It perfectly captures that feeling of being a bit off, you know, not seriously ill, but definitely not at your best.
Like just blah.
Yeah, just blah.
But what's interesting to me is how that idiom uses the weather as a metaphor for health.
Oh, that's a good point.
It's almost like we see illness as this temporary storm we have to weather,
Like that, yeah.
to get through.
To ride it out.
But what if you're actually really sick, like stuck in bed, can't move, kind of sick? Would under the weather still cut it?
Oh, for that level of misery, we have stronger idioms.
Bring on the strong ones.
Okay, imagine someone completely knocked down by a bug, like they're really suffering. That's when you'd say they're sick as a dog.
Sick as a dog. I love that one.
Yeah.
It's funny because, well, dogs don't usually get sick that often, do they?
Not that we know of.
But I get the point. It's about feeling totally wiped out. Though there's got to be an idiom for when it's even worse than that, right? When it's
Oh, absolutely.
right.
When someone's health is in serious jeopardy, you know, it's a grave situation.
Oh.
We say they're at death's door.
Oh, yikes.
Not a very cheerful one, I'll admit, but thankfully it's not an idiom we use very often.
Hopefully not. But the book also mentioned worse for wear, which seems to fall somewhere in between under the weather and sick as a dog. Maybe it's like that feeling after a really rough night out.
You're picking up on those nuances. Worse for wear is more general. It means being drained or exhausted, whether it's from illness, stress, even a wild party.
Yeah, like you've been through the ringer a little bit.
Exactly. It implies that you're depleted, but you'll bounce back. It's temporary.
You'll recover.
You'll recover.
Okay, so we've covered the spectrum from feeling a little off to being on the verge of collapse, all with colorful idioms. But health isn't just about illness, right? It's about taking care of ourselves, both physically and mentally. Speaking of which, the book uses this great phrase when talking about stress relief, blowing off some steam.
Blowing off some steam.
Yeah.
So essential.
So important.
But think about it, why steam? Steam is like built up pressure that needs to be released.
Right.
Just like when we kind of bottle up our emotions, it creates that internal pressure. So this idiom is about finding those healthy ways to let it out, whether it's through exercise or creative outlets or even a good vent section with a friend,
Just let it out.
Just let it out.
So it's not about avoiding emotions altogether. It's about channeling them in a way that doesn't make us, explode like an overheated tea kettle.
Exactly. Finding those outlets that help us de-stress and regain our balance is key.
Balance. I like that. And speaking of balance, the book also has this line where a character says, I wish I hadn't been such a couch potato. An apple a day keeps the doctor away, right? It's classic advice.
Yeah.
But is there any truth to it? I mean, is a single apple really a magical cure-all?
Well, I don't think a single apple has those kind of superpowers. But what's fascinating about this idiom, despite being about a literal fruit, it captures a much broader concept.
What's that?
Preventative health.
Yeah.
It's about making those healthy choices a regular part of your routine so you're less likely to need those major medical interventions later on.
It's like the idiom itself is this little nudge towards taking care of ourselves.
A little reminder. And if you're doing all the right things, maybe you could even say you're as fit as a fiddle.
As fit as a fiddle. I like that one.
Who doesn't want to be compared to a perfectly tuned instrument?
I know, right? Sounds good to me. So from under the weather to as fit as a fiddle, we've covered a lot of ground in the health department.
Yeah, we have.
But there's another area of life where idioms really shine, and that is relationships. And I'm not talking about just the lovey-dovey kind. I'm talking about the full spectrum of human connection, from friendships to family dynamics, even those tricky workplace relationships.
Yeah, the juicy ones.
Oh, yeah. The book had one that really jumped out at me. It's giving someone the cold shoulder.
Ooh, a cold shoulder.
Yeah. And they used it to describe a strained parent-child relationship, which can definitely get icy sometimes, right?
Oh, absolutely. Family drama is the best drama.
Oh, it's the worst. It's the worst. But it's a powerful image. Giving the cold shoulder. You can practically feel the chill in the air.
Yeah, like you're being ignored.
Yeah, like, don't talk to me.
Exactly. But giving the cold shoulder is more than just physical distance. It's about that deliberate withdrawal of affection and communication. It's a way of saying, I'm upset, and I'm not ready to engage with you right now.
Okay, so it's not just about being busy or needing some space. It's a deliberate act of showing displeasure. But is that the same as what the book calls letting the dust settle? That seems more about just taking a time out.
You're right, there is a difference. Letting the dust settle is more about creating a temporary pause, allowing emotions to cool down before you address the situation directly. Imagine like a room filled with swirling dust after a fight. You can't see clearly until things settle, right?
Right, yeah.
It's about taking that step back to gain perspective before you jump back into the fray.
So giving the cold shoulder is intentional. It's a bit of a power move, while letting the dust settle is more about strategic disengagement. That makes a lot of sense.
Exactly. It's all about understanding the subtle messages behind these idioms and using them appropriately. Now, let's talk about those really strong positive relationships.
Okay.
The book has this adorable idiom, 2 peas in a pod, to describe those close friendships. I mean, it just makes me picture like 2 little peas snuggled up together, completely inseparable.
It's such a cute image. It perfectly captures that feeling of being so in sync with someone, sharing the same interests, values, even quirks, like you're 2 halves of a whole.
And that kind of connection can be so valuable.
Yeah.
But let's be real, even the best of friendships aren't always sunshine and rainbows.
That's true.
Remember that workplace drama in the book where someone gets stabbed in the back?
Ooh, yeah.
That takes us to a much darker side of relationships.
Ugh, stabbed in the back. It's such a visceral idiom. It goes way beyond a simple disagreement or misunderstanding. It's about a deliberate betrayal of trust. A wound that cuts deep and can be hard to heal.
Exactly. It evokes a sense of shock, pain, and vulnerability. It highlights how actions can have a much deeper impact than words, especially when trust is broken.
So we've gone from the warmth of being two peas in a pod to the sting of betrayal. Relationships are a roller coaster, aren't they?
They really are.
But speaking of journeys, let's move on to our final theme for this part of our deep dive work. The book starts off this section with a classic hit the books, which, let's be honest, every student has heard at some point.
Oh, it's a rite of passage.
It's like a universal experience.
It is.
But it's more than just studying, right?
Yeah.
It implies a certain level of dedication and intensity.
It's like, imagine physically striking those books to force the knowledge into your brain.
Oh, I get it.
That's the level of effort we're talking about.
It's funny because the book actually advises against cramming and pulling all-nighters, which seem pretty similar to hitting the books at first glance. What's the difference?
It's all about the approach and the mindset. Hitting the books suggests a consistent, structured study routine, whereas cramming and pulling all-nighters, that's like last-minute desperation.
Okay.
Trying to cram information into your brain in a panic. The idiom itself, hit the books, reflects a more effective and sustainable way of learning.
So it's not just about the hours you put in, it's about how you use those hours. Smart. Now, the book also has this great section on study tips, which seems like a perfect segue into our next idiom, working your fingers to the bone.
That one evokes a sense of pure hard work.
Yeah.
It paints this picture of someone toiling tirelessly, pushing themselves to their limits to achieve a goal. But what's interesting is it applies to both physical and mental labor. Think of a writer spending hours hunched over a manuscript, or a programmer working late into the night to meet a deadline.
Yeah.
Those are both examples of working your fingers to the bone.
It's like the idiom itself is a testament to dedication and perseverance, even if it hints at a bit of exhaustion, too.
It does, yeah.
But not all work is about burning the midnight oil. Sometimes we stress ourselves out unnecessarily, making mountains out of molehills, as the book puts it.
That's a classic.
That's such a good one. It's all about perspective, right? We blow things out of proportion, turning minor setbacks into these major catastrophes. It's like that feeling when you spill a drop of coffee on your shirt and suddenly feel like the entire day is ruined.
Oh, I know that feeling.
Yeah, but the idiom reminds us to zoom out, see the bigger picture, and not let those little things derail us.
Exactly. It's a gentle reminder to, chill out. Don't sweat the small stuff.
Exactly. So from the intensity of hitting the books and working your fingers to the bone to the importance of keeping things in perspective, we've covered quite a bit in the work realm. But we've also touched on money, health, and relationships. What's the big takeaway here? What have we learned from all these idioms?
What's fascinating about these idioms and what we've seen today is that they're not just about vocabulary, they're windows into culture and thought.
That's a great point.
By incorporating these colorful expressions, you'll not only sound more natural in your communication, but you'll also deepen your understanding of how native speakers think and express themselves.
So keep exploring.
Keep playing with language.
Keep having fun with it.
Most importantly, have fun with it.
We'll be back soon with part 2 of this deep dive, where we'll uncover even more fascinating American English idioms from advanced English conversation dialogues.
There are so many more.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
All right, welcome back to our deep dive into the wonderful world of American English idioms. Last time we were talking about money, health, relationships, even some work idioms.
Yeah, we covered a lot of ground.
A lot of ground. But there are so many more to explore. So where are we headed next on this idiom adventure?
Well, let's stick with that work theme for a little bit longer, but this time, let's focus on success.
Okay.
And there's one idiom that really captures that idea of being clever, quick-witted.
Oh, I like those kinds of people.
Yeah, right. Resourceful.
Resourceful.
It pops up in the book when they're describing a character who's always one step ahead.
Okay, give me a hint.
It involves a baked good.
A baked good smart cookie.
Yeah, smart cookie.
Smart cookie. I love that one. It's like you can practically picture someone snapping their fingers and coming up with a brilliant solution, you know?
Yeah, they're sharp.
They're sharp.
Savvy.
Savvy. But is it just about book smarts, or is there more to it?
It definitely goes beyond just having a high IQ, I think. Think about it. Cookies are small, but packed with flavor, right?
Right.
So a smart cookie is someone who's resourceful, adaptable. They can handle any situation with a mix of intelligence and street smarts.
So they're not just good at taking tests.
No, they can handle real life stuff.
They're out there in the world.
They're the ones who always seem to have a plan, even when things get a bit chaotic.
They're the problem solvers.
Yeah, the problem solvers.
Okay, so smart cookie, someone who's sharp, savvy, has that certain something that helps them navigate tricky situations. But sometimes even the smartest cookies need a little help along the way.
Oh, absolutely. We all need support.
And that brings us to another idiom that I found really heartwarming. It's a shoulder to cry on.
Oh, a shoulder to cry on.
Yeah, the book uses it to describe that friend who's always there for you no matter what.
It's that deep sense of support, empathy. You know, you have someone you can turn to when things get rough, someone who will listen without judgment and offer comfort when you need it most. It's like a safe haven, a reminder that you're not alone in your struggles.
Yeah, it's like a human security blanket.
Yeah, I like that.
It's so nice.
It is nice.
But it's not just about offering comfort, though, right? It's about being present, going through those ups and downs together. And speaking of which, the book uses a great idiom to describe that kind of long-lasting bond through thick and thin.
Oh, through thick and thin, a classic.
A classic. What does that one mean to you?
It's about resilience.
Yeah.
You're sticking by someone's side no matter what life throws your way, good times and bad. It's that unshakable loyalty that weathers storms and emerges, like even stronger on the other side. It's the kind of friendship that can withstand disagreements, distance, even major life changes.
It's not just about, like, having fun together, you know?
No.
It's about being there for each other through the good times and the bad times.
Exactly.
That's real friendship right there. But let's be real, not all relationships are that deep and meaningful.
True.
Sometimes we connect with people based on shared interests or goals. And the book captures that perfectly with the idiom, birds of a feather flock together.
Yes. It's like we're drawn to those who are like us, who share our values, passions, maybe even our quirks. It's like, those flocks of birds that move in perfect unison. There's a sense of unity and belonging that comes with finding your tribe.
It's like that feeling when you meet someone new and you instantly click,
Yeah.
You just get each other.
Yeah, you're on the same wavelength.
There's no need to explain yourself.
You just vibe.
You just vibe. But even with those natural connections, sometimes things don't go as planned.
Oh, that's life.
And remember that character in the book who made a hasty decision and ended up really regretting it? They definitely jumped the gun on that one.
Oh, jumping the gun, that's a good one.
Yeah.
It's all about acting impulsively without thinking things through. It's like that athlete who takes off before the starting pistol.
Oh, yeah.
They might have a head start, but they've also broken the rules and to face consequences.
So it's like about that fine line between being spontaneous and being reckless.
You got to think before you act.
Sometimes a little patience goes a long way. But speaking of taking action, we've all experienced those moments of, like, anticipation and nervousness before a big event, right?
Pre-game jitters.
The pre-game jitters, exactly. The book calls it having butterflies in your stomach.
Ooh, those butterflies.
A butterfly.
Yeah, they can be both exciting and nerve-wracking.
I always get them before a big presentation or a job interview. It's like, my stomach is trying to fly away.
It's that fluttery sensation that signals that we're stepping outside our comfort zone, taking a risk, maybe even facing a fear.
Yeah. It's that, like, feeling of the unknown.
It's like, what's going to happen?
But the book also mentioned a phrase that seems to contradict that feeling of nervousness. A piece of cake.
Yeah.
Usually that means something's easy, right?
Yeah, super easy breezy.
Breezy.
That's us.
But what's interesting is how the book uses it. It's not about the task itself being easy. It's about having the confidence to tackle it.
It's a mindset.
It's that mindset. It's like a way of reframing a challenge and saying, I got this, no problem.
Yeah, I'm not even sweating it.
Not even sweating it.
It's a cake.
Piece of cake. So it's like a mental trick to boost your confidence and approach a situation with a positive mindset. But sometimes, even with the best attitude, we need a little extra help from the universe.
Oh, yeah. A little luck never hurts.
A little luck. And that's where fingers crossed comes in, right?
Fingers crossed, absolutely. It's that universal gesture of hoping for the best, wishing for good luck, especially when we have limited control over the outcome.
Right.
It's like we're sending a little prayer to the universe saying, please let this work out in my favor.
It's like a little superstitious boost,
A little extra mojo.
to tip the scales in our direction. And speaking of quirky traditions, there's another one that always throws me off. Break a leg. I mean, who wishes someone an injury, especially right before a big performance?
Right. Seems counterintuitive.
It does.
But break a leg is a classic theatrical idiom. It's like a way of wishing someone good luck on stage. And there are a few theories about its origin. Some say it's like a reverse psychology thing. By wishing for the opposite of what you want, you're somehow warding off bad luck.
Interesting.
Another theory links it to like the idea of bowing so deeply that you might actually break a leg, like as a sign of a successful performance.
So it's either a superstitious charm or a testament to like the dedication of performers?
Yeah.
Either way, it's a unique way of showing support. But sometimes words speak louder than any quirky idiom. The book has this beautiful line where a character simply says, "I'm here for you." It's so simple, yet so powerful.
It is. It goes beyond just mere words. It's a declaration of unwavering support. It's a promise to stand by someone's side through those challenges, through thick and thin. It conveys empathy, understanding, and a willingness to offer practical help or just a listening ear.
It's about showing up for someone, letting them know they're not alone in whatever they're going through.
Yeah, exactly. We've all been there. We all need that sometimes.
But sometimes even with support, life throws us curveballs.
Life is unpredictable.
And we need a fresh start.
A reset.
A reset. The book uses a familiar idiom in a new way to describe this, a clean bill of health. We usually associate that with like physical well-being.
Yeah, going to the doctor, getting a checkup.
Yeah. But the book uses it metaphorically.
Interesting.
To describe like a fresh start after a difficult period. It's like wiping the slate clean, getting a second chance, emerging from a challenge with renewed energy and a clear perspective.
It's like a mental and emotional clean bill of health.
Exactly. So it's not just about being free from illness, it's about feeling mentally and emotionally refreshed, ready to tackle whatever comes next.
Love that.
But getting to that point often involves a process of recovery and rebuilding.
Mm-hmm.
That's where Back on My Feet comes in.
Oh, yeah, back on my feet.
Mm-hmm.
That's about regaining stability and independence after a setback.
Okay.
It suggests resilience, that ability to bounce back from adversity and move forward with renewed purpose. It could be recovering from an illness, a job loss, a heartbreak, anything that knocks you down temporarily.
Yeah, like you're getting your footing again.
Yeah, you're finding your balance.
It's finding your balance.
You're not knocked out, you're getting back up.
And sometimes that forward momentum requires teamwork and collaboration.
Oh, for sure.
That's where the classic idiom, two heads are better than one, comes into play.
Ah, yes. Two heads are better than one. A testament to the power of collaboration.
I love it. What does it mean to you?
It's about recognizing that, we don't have all the answers. And seeking input and diverse perspectives can lead to more creative and effective solutions. It's about leveraging each other's strengths to achieve a common goal.
It's like that brainstorming session where, one idea sparks another, and suddenly you have a solution that's better than anything you could have come up with alone.
Synergy.
Synergy, exactly. But sometimes, even with a great team, the going gets tough and we need a little encouragement to keep pushing forward. The book uses a simple yet effective phrase for this, and it is, keep your chin up.
Oh, I love that one. Keep your chin up. It's like a pep talk in 3 words.
It is.
It's a reminder to stay strong, maintain a positive attitude, and don't let those setbacks define you. It's about focusing on what you can control, finding that silver lining, and believing in your ability to overcome challenges.
It's like that little voice inside your head saying, you got this, don't give up.
Exactly.
But sometimes, even with the best intentions, we reach a point where we need to step back and reassess. The book uses call it a day, which we usually associate with ending the workday.
Right, clocking out.
Clocking out. But they use it in a broader sense.
Interesting. How so?
Well, it can also apply to any situation where we need to recognize our limits, prioritize our well-being, and say enough is enough for now.
Okay, yeah. It's about knowing when to step away, recharge, and come back with renewed energy and focus.
So it's not about quitting.
No.
It's about strategic pausing, taking a break to prevent burnout and come back stronger. And sometimes that break involves spending time with friends. And when it comes to group outings, there's one idiom that always comes up, go Dutch.
Go Dutch. Oh, yeah. All about fairness and equality.
I like it.
Everyone chips in equally for a meal or activity, ensuring no one feels burdened or obligated.
That's good.
Takes the pressure off, creates a more relaxed and enjoyable social experience.
It's like that silent agreement to split the bill evenly, avoiding any awkwardness or resentment. But sometimes we want to do more than just split the bill, right? We want to express generosity and treat our friends. And that's where my treat comes in.
Oh, yeah, my treat. It's a gesture of warmth and hospitality. It's a way of saying, like, I appreciate you and I want to show you my gratitude.
Oh, that's nice.
It's about strengthening bonds, creating a sense of warmth and camaraderie.
Yeah.
Those little acts of kindness that just brighten someone's day and make them feel special.
I love that. But before we get too carried away with those feel-good vibes,
Oh,
there's one last idiom I wanted to bring up.
okay.
The book uses it to describe those moments when we have to admit defeat.
Oh, okay.
Throw in the towel.
Throw in the towel. It signifies surrender. You're acknowledging that the battle is lost and it's time to move on. It's a difficult decision, often requiring humility and self-awareness, but sometimes it's the wisest choice. It allows us to, like, conserve our energy and focus on more promising opportunities.
So we've gone from smart cookies to throwing in the towel,
Quite the range.
from shoulders to cry on to calling it a day. We've covered a lot of ground in this part of our deep dive. What overarching themes are you noticing as we explore these idioms?
You know, what's striking me is how these idioms, while seemingly simple and colloquial, they offer these really profound insights into, like, human nature, relationships, and even the pursuit of success.
It's true.
They highlight the importance of resilience, support systems, balance, and recognizing both our strengths and our limitations. And by understanding these nuances, we can communicate more effectively, navigate challenges with greater ease, and even cultivate more meaningful connections.
So it's about more than just memorizing vocabulary. It's about tapping into that cultural wisdom embedded in these expressions and using them to navigate the complexities of life. We'll be back soon with part 3 of our deep dive, where we'll uncover even more fascinating American English idioms from advanced English conversation dialogues.
Stay tuned.
Welcome back for round 3 of our idiom exploration. Thanks to you and your fantastic suggestion of advanced English conversation dialogues, we've been on quite the journey through the twists and turns of American English idioms.
We have so many good ones.
I know, from those big expenses that cost an arm and a leg to finding a shoulder to cry on when things get rough.
And everything in between.
But there are still so many more idioms to uncover. So where are we headed in this final installment of our deep dive?
Well, let's step into a realm where things aren't always as they seem. A world of secrets, surprises, and maybe even a little bit of mischief.
Ooh, sounds intriguing.
Because today, we're talking about idioms that add a touch of drama and intrigue to our conversations.
Okay, I'm ready for the drama.
Are you ready to spill the tea?
Oh, is that an idiom?
Maybe. But speaking of spilling, the book uses this really funny idiom to describe a secret being revealed. Let the cat out of the bag.
Let the cat out of the bag. I love that one.
It's so visual, right?
Yeah.
You can practically picture that mischievous cat escaping and creating chaos.
Total chaos.
But letting the cat out of the bag isn't always accidental.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes it's a deliberate act of sharing confidential information, like, to get ahead or to stir up trouble.
Ooh, juicy gossip.
The book even has a scene where someone reveals their plans to leave their job before everything's finalized.
Oh, so they were like talking about it behind people's backs?
A little bit, yeah.
Not cool. But sometimes those whispers can turn into full-blown conflicts if we don't, what's that phrase, nip things in the bud early on?
Yes, nip it in the bud.
That's a good one.
It's all about taking preventative action, addressing a problem before it escalates.
Okay.
Think of a gardener pruning a plant to prevent it from growing out of control.
Right.
It's about taking that decisive action early on to avoid bigger headaches down the road.
It's like that saying, a stitch in time saves 9. But sometimes, even with the best intentions, things don't always go as planned, and we find ourselves in situations that are just, like, plain confusing. The book uses a very fitting idiom for this clear as mud.
Clear as mud. It's brilliant, isn't it? It's that perfect blend of sarcasm and frustration when something is just utterly incomprehensible.
It's like, what are you even talking about?
Exactly. Imagine trying to see through a thick layer of mud. It's murky, distorted, impossible to make sense of.
It's like those times when you get instructions that are so convoluted, you end up more confused than when you started.
Absolutely. Speaking of confusing situations, there's another idiom that highlights those moments when people just can't seem to agree. See eye to eye.
Oh, yeah, see eye to eye. That's a big one.
Yeah. It's about finding common ground, reaching that shared understanding.
That's a good thing.
Yeah. Like that moment when two people look at the same picture and see the same thing. There's a sense of harmony and alignment.
It's like that aha moment. You realize you're both on the same wavelength. But Let's be real, disagreements are part of life.
Yeah, conflict happens.
And sometimes those disagreements can get pretty heated. The book uses a rather explosive idiom to describe this. Blow a gasket.
Blow a gasket. Ooh, that's a good one. It's all about expressing extreme anger or frustration. It's like that old car engine that overheats and suddenly bursts a gasket.
Right.
There's a sense of pressure building up until it reaches that breaking point.
It's like that feeling when you're so angry you feel like you might actually explode.
Exactly. But thankfully, there are healthier ways to blow off some steam.
Right, and we talked about that in part 1 of this deep dive.
Finding those constructive outlets for our emotions, whether it's exercise, creative expression, even just talking things out.
Yeah, just letting it out.
Let it out. It can help us regain our composure and approach situations with a clearer head.
So it's about finding those pressure valves.
Yeah.
That allow us to release those intense emotions in a safe and healthy way. But sometimes, even after all that effort, we reach a point where we have to admit defeat. The book uses a very powerful idiom for this. Throw in the towel.
Oh, throw in the towel. It signifies surrender. You're acknowledging that the battle is lost and it's time to move on.
That's a tough one.
It is tough. It's not an easy decision, but sometimes it's the wisest choice. It allows us to conserve our energy and focus on more promising opportunities.
It's about picking your battles.
Yeah, exactly. Choosing where you're going to put your energy.
But on the flip side, there are also times when perseverance is key. When we need to dig deep and, what's that phrase, hang in there, despite the challenges.
Hang in there. It's a powerful expression of encouragement. It's about holding on tight, not giving up hope, and believing that things will eventually get better.
It's like that inner strength that helps us weather storms and emerge stronger on the other side.
Yeah, it's that little voice inside your head saying, you got this, just keep going.
And sometimes the best thing to do is to simply call it a day and take a break. And I love how the book uses this idiom, not just for ending the workday, but for any situation where we need to just pause and recharge.
Yeah, call it a day. It can apply to anything from ending a project to stepping away from a stressful situation.
Right.
It's about recognizing our limits, prioritizing our well-being, giving ourselves permission to rest, and come back with renewed energy.
So it's not about giving up, it's about strategic pausing.
Yeah, exactly.
Taking a break to prevent burnout and maintain a healthy balance.
Self-care.
Self-care is so important.
It is. And sometimes, we need a little bit of luck on our side.
We do. The book uses a simple yet effective phrase for this. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. It's that universal gesture of hoping for the best. You're wishing for a favorable outcome, especially when we have limited control over the situation. It's like we're sending a little prayer to the universe saying, please let this work out.
It's a little superstitious, maybe, but there's something comforting about that gesture. Like we're actively putting that positive energy out into the world.
Manifesting
it. And speaking of positivity, there's one last idiom that I wanted to touch on. Speak of the devil. It's such a funny one, and it always seems to happen at the most unexpected times.
Right. Speak of the devil.
Yeah.
It's all about those surprising coincidences. When the person you were just talking about suddenly appears.
It's like the universe is eavesdropping on us.
It really is. It has a sense of humor and is orchestrating these perfectly timed entrances.
It's always a little startling, but there's something delightful about it too, like a reminder that life is full of unexpected twists and turns.
It keeps us on our toes.
It keeps us on our toes. Well, we've certainly covered a lot of ground in this deep dive into American English idioms, from secrets and surprises to disagreements and frustrations, from giving up to hanging in there. We've explored a wide range of human experiences and emotions through the lens of these really colorful expressions. Any final thoughts for our listeners before we wrap up this linguistic adventure?
I think what's important to remember is that idioms aren't just about memorizing words. It's about understanding the culture, the thought processes behind them. By embracing these sometimes quirky sayings, you're not just expanding your vocabulary, you're gaining a deeper appreciation for the nuances of the English language and the people who speak it.
It's about connecting with the heart and soul of a language.
Exactly. It's more than just fluency. It's about understanding the culture, the humor, and the history behind these expressions.
And on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive into American English idioms. A huge thank you to you, our listener, for suggesting this fascinating topic.
It was a great choice.
And remember, keep those ears open. You'll start hearing these idioms everywhere. Happy learning.
All right, so are you ready to boost your English fluency?
Yeah, always.
Today, we're taking a deep dive into idioms and phrasal verbs, going way beyond the basics.
Yeah, even advanced learners can trip up on these.
They can be tricky.
They really can.
But think about it like this. You've got the grammar down pat, you've got a solid vocabulary, but now you really want to sound natural like a native speaker.
Right.
That's where these idioms and phrasal verbs really come into play. They're like those secret ingredients that just add so much flavor.
And you know what? We've got a fantastic selection for you today, pulled from a 3-hour workshop. We've condensed it down to like the juiciest, most essential parts.
Yeah, we're going to break down these expressions, look at all those little subtle nuances, and by the end of this deep dive, you'll not only understand them, but you'll be able to use them confidently.
Yeah, that's the goal, right?
Yeah.
To actually use them.
Exactly.
All right.
So let's jump right in with an idiom that's all about approaching information with a healthy dose of skepticism.
Okay.
Take it with a grain of salt.
I love that one.
It's so good, right? So let's say you've got a colleague who's known for embellishing stories just a little bit. You might say something like, he tends to exaggerate, so take his stories with a grain of salt.
It's a really nice way to express caution, without like directly accusing somebody of, figging.
Right.
You're basically saying, yeah, I'm listening, but I'm also keeping in mind that this might not be the whole truth.
And it's so important, I think, especially these days where we're just bombarded with information from all sides.
Yeah, we have to be really careful about what we believe.
Right.
Take it with a grain of salt. It's like a little reminder to pause, think critically before we just accept anything as like the absolute truth.
That's so important. So let's shift gears a little bit to a more lighthearted idiom, spill the beans.
Oh, I love this one.
This is when someone reveals a secret,
Yeah.
often unintentionally, like that classic surprise party scenario.
Yeah, somebody let the cat out of the bag.
Right, it's usually used in a playful, kind of teasing way,
And-
not like a serious accusation.
It's like, oh, come on, you can tell me I won't be mad.
Exactly. I think spill the beans is a perfect example of how idioms can inject humor into language.
Yeah, it's so much more fun than just saying reveal a secret.
Right.
It just adds that little bit of personality.
Okay, so next up we've got an idiom that's all about flexibility. Play it by ear.
Oh, this is a good one.
And this one comes in handy when you're not really sure what the plan is or, things are subject to change.
Yeah.
Like, let's say you're meeting up his friends for dinner, but the restaurant's packed.
Oh, yeah.
What do you say?
Let's just play by ear. We'll see if we can get a table or maybe try somewhere else close by.
Exactly. It's all about being adaptable and going with the flow.
Yeah, that's a really important skill to have,
So important.
especially when things are, changing all the time.
Right. Playing it by ear lets you adjust those plans and make decisions as you go.
Makes sense.
Okay, so now let's talk about an idiom that's often used when someone's avoiding the main point or being a little evasive beat around the bush.
Oh, I don't like when people do that.
Have you ever noticed how some people just dance around a topic instead of getting straight to the point?
It's frustrating.
It is frustrating.
Yeah.
Like, imagine you're asking a friend about something kind of sensitive,
Right.
but they just keep talking about everything else except what you want to know.
You want to say just stop beating around the bush.
Right, tell me what's going on.
What's the deal?
Exactly. It's important, though, to pay attention to the context and the speaker's tone.
Yeah.
Sometimes people beat around the bush because they're uncomfortable or nervous.
Or maybe they're trying to protect someone's feelings.
Right. It's not always about being intentionally evasive.
Right.
Sometimes it's just about finding the right words or approaching a difficult conversation with sensitivity.
That makes sense.
That leads us to an idiom that's all about neutrality, sit on the fence.
Ah, yes.
This one describes someone who's hesitant to choose a side.
They can't make up their mind.
They just can't decide. So picture a heated debate, right? Two people are arguing passionately for these opposed viewpoints.
They're going at it.
But then there's that one person who's just sitting there undecided, carefully weighing those pros and cons.
They're on the fence.
They're sitting on the fence.
Yeah.
And you know what? It can be frustrating if you're looking for a clear commitment.
Yeah, I want to know what side you're on.
Right.
But sometimes, it's good to gather more information before you make a decision.
Right. Sometimes it's a sign of being thoughtful and careful.
Yeah, you want to consider all the angles.
Exactly.
Before you jump in.
Okay, let's move on to an idiom that I think we can all relate to, bite off more than you can chew.
Oh, yeah, I've been there.
I know we've all been there, especially when it comes to like new challenges or those ambitious goals.
It's that feeling of, oh, I can totally do this. And then you realize,
What have I gotten myself in?
I have way too much on my plate.
I remember once trying to learn 3 languages at the same time.
Oh, wow.
Talk about biting off more than I could chew.
Yeah, that's ambitious.
It was fun and challenging, but I quickly realized I needed to scale back.
Yeah, one at a time.
One at a time.
It's easy to get caught up in that initial excitement,
Right.
but we have to be realistic about our time and, what we can actually handle.
Biting off more than you can do can lead to burnout.
And stress.
And you might not even reach your goals.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's better to start small, build a solid foundation, and then gradually take on more.
One step at a time.
One step at a time.
Yeah.
And speaking of taking shortcuts, let's talk about an idiom that often has a bit of a negative connotation, cut corners.
Uh-oh.
This suggests doing something in a hasty or incomplete way to save time or money, but it can compromise quality.
Yeah, you end up sacrificing something important.
Imagine a construction company trying to finish a project quickly and cheaply.
Right, they might use cheaper materials.
Right.
Or
Yeah.
skip some safety checks.
And those consequences could be huge.
Yeah.
It's like a reminder that sometimes it's worth investing that extra time and effort to do things properly.
In the long run, it pays off.
Now let's talk about trends. Jump on the bandwagon.
Oh, I see this all the time.
All the time, especially with like fashion technology, social media. A new trend pops up and everybody's doing it.
Everyone wants to be part of it.
It's that fear of missing out.
Yeah, that FOMO.
Right. But it's important to remember you don't always have to follow the crowd.
You can make your own choices.
Think critically and do what actually interests you.
Yeah, what aligns with your values.
Exactly. Okay, let's lighten things up again with a playful idiom, pull someone's leg.
Oh, I love this one.
This one's all about teasing in a good-natured way.
Yeah, just a little bit of fun.
Like, I'm just messing with you.
Exactly.
Imagine you're telling a friend this crazy story.
Right, and they believe you.
They totally believe it.
And then you're like, come on, I was just pulling your leg.
It's all about that delivery and the tone.
It's got to be lighthearted.
Right.
Playful.
It's a great way to build rapport.
Yeah, it shows you're comfortable with each other.
Right. But make sure the other person knows you're joking.
Yeah, you don't want to cause a misunderstanding.
And finally, let's wrap up this first round of idioms with burn the candle at both ends.
This is a classic.
This one really captures that feeling of being overworked, stressed out, just exhausted.
Yeah, you're going nonstop.
Think of someone juggling multiple jobs, family responsibilities, and still trying to have a social life.
They're burning the candle at both ends.
It's a reminder that we need to find a balance and take care of ourselves.
We can't do it all.
Right. We need to prioritize well-being
Yeah, set boundaries.
and find ways to recharge.
And relax.
Okay, so that was our exploration of some amazing idioms. We covered skepticism, humor, flexibility, directness, neutrality, ambition, quality, trends, playfulness, and balance.
That was a lot.
It was a lot.
But we did it.
We did it.
And now, are you ready for phrasal verbs?
Oh, I am so ready. Let's do it.
Okay, so let's dive into those phrasal verbs. Let's start with hold off, which basically means to postpone or delay something. Like, we're going to hold off on making a decision until we have more information.
Yeah, it's like hitting that pause button.
Exactly. Giving yourself some time to think things through.
Gather more insights, maybe wait for a better moment.
Makes sense, right?
Yeah, it's a good one. All right, so next up, put someone up.
Okay, this one's all about hospitality, offering a place to stay.
Right. Imagine a friend's visiting your city.
You could say, hey, don't even bother with a hotel. I can put you up at my place.
Such a nice gesture.
It is. It's like making someone feel welcome and comfortable.
Exactly. Now let's get a little more nuance with come down to.
Okay, so this is used to highlight like the essential element of something.
Right, the core of a situation.
Yeah, like if you're analyzing a problem with lots of different factors,
Right.
You might say, ultimately, it all comes down to effective communication.
It's about cutting through the noise and finding what really matters.
Exactly, getting to the heart of the matter.
Okay, so next we got pull through, which conveys this idea of resilience and overcoming challenges.
Yeah, like when someone's going through something really tough.
Right, maybe a serious illness or a personal crisis.
You could say we're all hoping they pull through this.
It's like an expression of hope and support.
Yeah, you're acknowledging the difficulty, but you believe they can overcome it.
It's powerful. Now let's shift gears to a phrasal verb with a much more dramatic meaning, wipe out.
Oh, this one's intense.
Yeah, it usually refers to complete destruction or elimination.
Like think about a natural disaster.
A hurricane or a tsunami.
Yeah, you might say the storm completely wiped out the coastal towns.
It's a strong image. It emphasizes that devastation.
It really does. Okay, so how about a phrasal verb with multiple meanings break into?
Okay, this one's tricky
It can be.
because it can mean a couple of different things.
Right.
So on one hand, it can refer to illegal entry.
Like someone tried to break into my car last night.
Right. But it can also mean entering a new field or profession.
Yeah, like she's trying to break into the music industry.
That's right. So context is super important here.
Yeah, pay attention to those surrounding words.
Figure out what they really mean, right? Set about.
This one implies a determined and purposeful approach to something.
Like when you're starting a new project.
Yeah, you might say, we're setting about to create a more sustainable business model.
It suggests a clear intention and a plan of action.
You're taking charge.
You're making things happen.
And last but not least for this round, step up.
This one often means taking on more responsibility or rising to a challenge.
Yeah, like in a leadership situation.
Imagine someone volunteers to lead a project when no one else will.
You could say he really stepped up and took charge.
It shows initiative and courage.
And a willingness to go above and beyond.
Okay, round 2 of phrasal verbs. Are you ready?
Bring it on.
Let's do it. Bring on.
Perfect example right there.
I know, right?
So bring on often means to cause something to happen, sometimes with negative consequences.
Right. Like stress can bring on headaches.
Lack of sleep can bring on fatigue.
Eating too much sugar can bring on a sugar crash.
It's all about cause and effect.
Right. recognizing those consequences.
Okay, next up we have track down, which means to find something after a thorough search.
Like when you're looking for something specific.
Yeah, a rare book or a long-lost friend.
You might say, I finally tracked down that old photo album.
It takes effort and persistence.
Right. You don't give up until you find it.
Determination is key. Okay, so now for a phrasal verb that conveys a sense of gradual disappearance. Fade away.
I like this one.
Yeah, it's got a certain feel to it.
Right, like memories can fade away over time.
Enthusiasm can fade away if you don't nurture it.
And that excitement for a year trend can fade away when something new comes along.
Yeah, it's a reminder that things change.
Nothing lasts forever.
All right, so let's move on to map out, which is all about planning and strategizing.
Yeah, when you need a clear plan of action.
Like when you're preparing for a big project,
Or a trip.
you might say, we need to map out our travel route.
It's about creating a roadmap.
Visualizing those steps.
Anticipating those challenges.
Okay, and when it's time to get laser focused, we use zero in on.
Love this one. It's like narrowing down your focus.
Right, honing in on that one crucial aspect.
Like a team trying to solve a problem.
Yeah, they might say, let's zero in on the main cause of the delay.
You're blocking out distraction.
Concentrating all your energy on that one thing.
Ready for a fun one? Screw up.
Oh yeah, we've all been there.
This is a casual way of admitting you made a mistake.
And usually a pretty big one.
Like, I totally screw up that presentation.
It's okay to laugh at ourselves sometimes.
Right, we're all human.
We make mistakes.
And last but not least, another multi-meaning phrasal verb, lay off.
Oh, context is key with this one.
It is, because it could mean a couple of different things.
Right.
On one hand, it could mean to terminate someone's employment.
Like the company had to lay off workers due to the recession.
Right. But it can also mean to stop doing something or to ease up.
Like, hey, lay off the junk food.
Or lay off the video games you've been playing all day.
So many possibilities.
So many possibilities. Wow, we covered a lot of ground with those idioms and phrasal verbs.
We did. It's amazing how much they can add to our language.
Right. They give it so much depth and color and personality.
I think what's really interesting is how they reflect our culture.
Yeah. It's like getting a glimpse into how people think and what they value.
And their sense of humor.
So for our listeners out there who want to master English, what are some key takeaways?
Well, first of all, don't be afraid to try them out. The more you use these expressions in real conversations, the more natural they'll become.
Right. It's like practice makes perfect.
Exactly. It's like learning a new dance step. It might feel awkward at first, but the more you do it, the smoother it gets.
I love that analogy. And it reminds me, we can't just passively learn these expressions.
Yeah, you got to use them.
We have to actively integrate them into our language.
And another important thing is to pay attention to context. Idioms and phrasal verbs can have different meanings depending on how they're used.
Right. So you have to consider the surrounding words, the tone of voice, the whole situation.
It's like being a detective.
A language detective.
You got to gather those clues to figure out the real meaning.
So what are some practical steps our listeners can take to really make these expressions stick?
One thing you can do is create your own examples using the idioms and phrasal verbs we talked about.
Okay.
Relate them to your own life, your work, your hobbies.
Make them personal.
Exactly. The more personal the connection, the easier it'll be to remember.
I like that. And what about immersing yourself in authentic English content?
Oh, that's huge. Movies, TV shows, podcasts, books.
It's like surrounding yourself with the language.
And pay attention to how native speakers use these expressions.
It's like getting a free language lesson.
And remember, learning a language takes time.
It's a journey.
There's always something new to discover.
So embrace the challenge, have fun with it, and celebrate your progress.
I couldn't have said it better myself. It's been a pleasure diving deep into these expressions with you and our listeners today.
And to all our listeners out there, we'd love to hear from you. Which idiom or phrasal verb resonated with you the most? How are you going to use them in your everyday conversations? Share your thoughts, your questions, and your experiences with us on social media. Let's keep this conversation going and keep exploring the amazing world of the English language together.
All right, so today we're going to be looking at something that you might think you've already mastered.
Oh.
Formal versus informal English.
Yeah.
You're probably already pretty good at it, right?
Most people are, yeah.
But we are going to go beyond just good.
Okay.
We're going for masterful.
I like it.
We're unlocking a secret code today
A secret code.
to help you tailor your communication
Okay.
to make the maximum impact possible.
Right.
Whether you're trying to, be super credible in the boardroom
Right.
or just bond better with your friends.
Yeah, and that's the key, isn't it? It's not just about knowing the rules, but it's about understanding the why behind them.
The why.
Yeah, like why does a certain word choice make us feel a certain way? How do these subtle shifts in language, really impact our perceptions and interactions?
Yeah, and we're basing this deep dive on a podcast called Fluent Conversations.
Okay.
And one of the things that really surprised me was how easy it is to sabotage yourself
Oh.
by using the wrong level of formality.
Oh, interesting.
Like, imagine you're at a networking event
Okay.
And you're trying to, project this air of confidence and professionalism.
Yeah.
But instead of saying something like, "Excuse me, would you mind if I joined your conversation?"
Whoa.
You blurt out, "Yo, can I hang with you guys?"
Oof, yeah, that's
Yeah.
cringeworthy.
Right.
Yeah, it really highlights how these small choices we make can have a big impact on how we're perceived.
Totally.
It's not just about grammar. It's about social intelligence,
Ooh, I like that.
understanding the unspoken rules of communication
Yeah.
and using them to your advantage.
Yeah, the podcast had this great example that really stuck with me.
Okay.
They compared the phrases, "I'm afraid I must decline your offer," to "Sorry, but I'll have to say no."
Yeah.
And it just made me realize that even when the message is the same, the feeling is totally different.
Absolutely. The first one feels very stiff and distant, almost like you're putting up a wall.
Right.
The second one is much warmer, more human,
Yeah.
even though it's still saying no.
Yeah.
It shows you can be direct, but you don't have to be harsh.
So how do we break down this code of formality?
Well,
Fluent conversations identify 3 key elements.
okay.
And the first one is vocabulary.
Vocabulary, I think about it this way. Every word carries a certain weight, a certain formality level.
Okay.
For instance, require versus need, inquire versus ask.
Yeah.
Even something simple like assist versus help.
Oh, interesting.
These little swaps can instantly elevate your language or make it more approachable.
Okay, so it's not just about using fancy words.
Right.
It's about understanding which words fit the situation.
Exactly. It's about matching your vocabulary to the context and to the person that you're speaking with. And it goes beyond individual words.
Okay.
Sentence structure plays a big role as well.
Sentence structure.
Yeah, the formal language tends towards longer, more complex sentences,
Okay.
often using the passive voice.
Like the report was submitted by the deadline.
Yes.
Instead of I sent in the report on time.
That's a great example. The first one feels detached and objective, right?
Yeah.
More appropriate maybe for formal reports or academic writing.
Yeah.
Informal language, though, it embraces contractions and phrasal verbs. It has a more relaxed conversational flow.
Yeah.
It's about creating that sense of connection, immediacy.
And of course, we can't forget about punctuation and greetings.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, obviously, "Dear Mr. Johnson" versus "Hey, Alex" is a pretty clear distinction.
Right.
But what about the subtle stuff?
That's where it gets interesting. Even something as simple as how you sign off an email.
Oh.
Sincerely versus best
Yeah.
can convey a lot about your relationship with the recipient
Right.
and the tone of the message. It's like the finishing touch that sets the seal on the whole communication.
So how do we put all this knowledge into practice?
Well,
It's one thing to understand the theory, but
Yeah.
how do we actually use it in different situations?
right. Well, that's where context comes in. Fluent Conversations did a good job at breaking it down,
Okay.
by looking at specific situations.
Okay.
Like emails or meetings or even casual chats.
That's super helpful. So let's start with emails. I feel like those can be tricky.
Oh, yeah.
Because you want to sound professional, but not like stiff,
Where emails often straddle that line between formal and informal.
Right.
You're not writing a legal document.
Yeah.
But you're also not texting your best friend.
Yeah.
So the podcast really emphasized, polite greetings,
Okay.
maintaining a professional tone throughout, and avoiding slang or like overly casual abbreviations.
So no, "Hey, dude, what's up?" It's my boss.
Probably a good idea to avoid that, yeah.
Okay, good rule of thumb. What about meetings and presentations?
Yeah.
Those feel like they're more on the formal end of the spectrum.
They often are, yeah, especially in professional settings.
Yeah.
The podcast really highlighted the importance of using transitional words and phrases
Okay.
to guide the listener through your ideas.
Okay.
Things like, furthermore, in addition, on the other hand, these little words can make your presentation sound much more structured and polished.
It's like you're building a case almost.
Exactly.
Leading them to your conclusion.
Right. And, those polite phrases we talked about earlier,
Yeah.
like could we possibly discuss or I'd like to propose,
Yeah.
those become even more important in these kind of settings.
Right.
Shows respect for everybody's time and input.
Okay, so we've covered emails and meetings. What about more casual interactions?
Sure.
Like friendly chats or texts?
Yeah, that's where you can loosen up a bit,
Okay.
Contractions, phrasal verbs, even emojis are all fair game.
Right.
Depending on your relationship with the person.
But how do you make sure that you're not crossing the line?
Oh, yeah.
Like, I once accidentally called my professor dude in an email.
Oh, no.
Oh, I wanted to die.
We've all been there.
Yeah.
I think the key is just being really mindful of your audience and the overall context.
Context.
Yeah. It's like choosing the right outfit, right?
Okay.
You wouldn't wear a ball gown to a backyard barbecue.
Right.
and you wouldn't show up to a job interview in sweatpants.
That's a great analogy.
So it's all about matching your communication style to the situation.
But fluent conversations also warn about some common pitfalls
Oh, yeah, for sure.
that we can fall into even when we're trying to be careful.
Right. One of the biggest ones is overusing fancy words.
Oh, yeah.
It's tempting to try and sound impressive,
Oh, totally.
but sometimes a simple word is way more effective than a complex one.
Right.
Clarity should always be the goal.
It's like, don't use a $5 word when a 50-cent word will do.
Exactly. Another common pitfall is mixing formal and informal language
Uh-oh.
at the wrong time.
Right.
It creates this jarring effect, like hearing a classical pianist suddenly break into a rap song.
Oh, I'm cringing just thinking about it.
And, the podcast also mentioned cultural differences,
Oh, right.
which is something I hadn't really considered before.
Yeah.
That's a crucial element,
Yeah.
What's considered polite and respectful in one culture could be seen as overly formal
Right.
or even rude in another.
Wow.
For example, in some cultures, it's totally normal to address people by their first names, even in a professional setting.
Yeah.
But in other cultures, using titles and last names is essential even when you know the person well.
So it's not just about knowing the rules of English.
Right.
It's about understanding the cultural context as well.
It does. It adds a whole other layer of complexity,
Totally.
but it also makes communication so much more interesting.
Right.
It's about bridging those cultural gaps and finding ways to connect authentically.
I like that perspective. So we've talked about the pitfalls. What are some strategies
Okay.
for avoiding them? Is it just practice? Practice.
Absolutely. Practice is key.
Okay.
Fluent Conversations had some great suggestions like rereading emails before you send them,
Okay.
getting feedback from like a trusted colleague or friend,
Yeah.
and even role-playing different situations
Okay.
to get comfortable with both formal and informal styles.
I remember they also suggested that role play exercise.
Oh, yeah?
Where you write a formal email and then an informal text message about the same topic.
Yes.
Have you tried that one yet?
Oh, yeah.
It was
How'd it go?
it was challenging, but it was really eye-opening.
Interesting. I'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, so I decided to use the scenario of asking for a deadline extension.
Okay, classic.
Yeah, right. So for the formal email to my professor, I channeled everything we talked about.
Okay, let me guess. Polite greetings, clear explanation, respectful tone.
Exactly. Yeah, it felt like I was stepping into a different persona.
It's interesting how language can do that, right? Like we can embody different roles just by changing the way we speak.
Yeah, and then writing the informal text to a friend about running late because of that same deadline.
Uh-huh.
It was like switching from a waltz to a hip-hop dance.
I bet what stood out to you the most, writing in those two contrasting styles.
It made me realize just how much we adjust our language without even thinking about it,
Yeah, it's subconscious.
Right, but being conscious of those choices
Right.
gives you this whole new level of control.
Yeah, that awareness is what makes a good communicator a great communicator.
Yeah, Fluent Conversations also mentioned how formal versus informal language has evolved over time.
Oh, that's a fascinating topic.
Isn't it?
Yeah,
It's crazy how language is like this living, breathing thing.
it is.
Constantly changing.
Yeah, the Nutcast talked about how centuries ago, formal language was so much more elaborate and ornate.
Right, makes you appreciate how simple things are now.
Well, simpler, maybe, but also more nuanced,
That's true.
Think about all the changes we've seen with technology and the internet and mass media.
Right,
They've all had such a profound impact on the way we communicate.
yeah.
Like the lines between formal and informal are constantly being blurred.
Totally. Like emojis and internet slang and abbreviations have become a part of everyday language.
It really makes you wonder what future historians will make of it all.
I know. It's kind of wild to think about.
Yeah, it shows how language is this reflection of our culture and values. What we see as acceptable now might have been unthinkable a few decades ago.
So how do we make sure we're communicating effectively in this constantly evolving landscape?
That's the question, isn't it? It feels like the rules are always changing.
Right.
I don't know if the rules are changing, but I think they're definitely expanding.
Okay. Yeah.
The key is to just stay curious and adaptable.
Okay.
Pay attention to how language is used in different situations.
Yeah.
Whether it's a news article or a social media post. Notice the nuances, the subtle shifts in tone and vocabulary.
So it's like we're all lifelong students of language.
We are.
Always observing and learning.
Exactly. And, Fluent Conversations reminded us that it's not about being right or wrong.
Right.
It's about using language as a tool to connect with others.
That's a good point. This whole deep dive has just been a great reminder that even something as familiar as language can
Yeah.
still have hidden depths
It can.
and complexities. And by being more mindful of our choices, we can all become more effective communicators. We can build stronger relationships and just navigate the world with more confidence, you know?
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, I think that's a great place to wrap up.
I think so too.
So listeners, remember, language is power.
It is.
Wield it wisely and watch your world expand. Okay, but really, think about it for a sec. How often are we all using words that kind of, sabotage what we're trying to say? Like little sneaky words making us sound less confident.
It happens more than you think. And it's wild how these tiny words can really affect how people see us. Especially at work, right?
Totally. Which is why we're diving into this article, 11 words you should stop saying immediately. We're not just going to list them, though. We're breaking down why they're bad, and most importantly, giving you swaps so you can sound more powerful.
Think of it like upgrading your communication one word at a time.
First up, the word just. Ugh, I'm so guilty of this. You're writing an email and it's like, I just wanted to follow up, or just a quick question. Why does just make us sound so unsure?
It's subtle, but just makes your request smaller, almost like you're apologizing for it. Imagine waiting to hear back about a project and you're like, I just wanted to follow up on the proposal. What's that say?
Makes me sound hesitant, like I shouldn't even be asking.
Right. But what if you just said, I'm following up on the proposal? It's tiny, but you sound way more confident taking charge.
No more tiptoeing, you own it.
Exactly. And that shift can change how your message lands big time.
Okay, another tricky one. Actually, this feels like a trap almost.
Oh, it can be. Actually, often slips out when we're correcting someone or giving a different view. But imagine someone's like, actually, I think we should go a different way. How's that feel?
Like they're shutting down my idea before even thinking about it?
It can sound condescending, even if they just meant to add to the discussion. Taking out actually makes it more collaborative. Like instead of, actually, I have a question about that, you can say, I'm curious about this part.
More like inviting a chat, not shutting it down.
Perfect. Still saying your thing, but it keeps the flow going, respectfully.
Now, maybe this one feels like almost self-sabotage, wouldn't you say?
It is. You wouldn't use maybe if you were really sure of your idea, so why hedge?
I guess it's like we're scared to commit to our thoughts, you know?
And that hesitation can hurt your credibility, especially at work. Decisiveness often equals competence. Instead of, maybe we should consider this. We should consider this. Hear the difference.
It's like you're leading, not just dipping a toe in.
Right. Showing confidence in your idea, inviting others to follow.
Okay, this one bugs me. Saying sorry when there's no need. Why do we apologize for, existing, basically?
It's a thing, isn't it? Do we really need to apologize for asking a question or taking up space or just saying what we think?
No way. And all that apologizing can actually make us seem, smaller, less confident.
You're right. And the key is, there are way better ways to say things. Instead of, sorry to bother you, try thanks for your time, or I appreciate your input.
Shows respect without sounding unsure. It's like shifting from apologizing for existing to being grateful for their attention.
Small but powerful, right. Changes how you come across.
All right, another confidence killer, I think. It's everywhere, but it makes what we say weaker.
It's a verbal tick for lots of us. But think about how much stronger it is without it. Like, I think this is the best option versus this is the best option. Huge difference.
You're right. It's a fact now, not just an opinion, maybe.
And sure, sometimes you want to say it's your view, not like universal truth. But even then, there are better ways.
So instead of, I think, you could say, from my analysis, or based on what I've seen.
Exactly. You're owning your view, but it's more, sophisticated.
Like leveling up your communication, swapping out the wishy-washy stuff for strong, impactful language.
And that's what this deep dive's about, right? Giving you the tools to communicate clearly, confidently, like you mean it. It's crazy, right? How even little changes to how we talk can make us, more confident overall. When we pick words that sound sure, it changes how others see us, but also how we see ourselves.
That's like telling your own brain, hey, I got this.
Totally. And speaking of believing in yourself, let's talk about can't. This one messes with us, keeps us from, doing our best.
Oh, yeah, can't. It's so easy to just say, I can't do this, especially when something's hard.
It's almost automatic, but it's a trap. When we say can't, we're basically stopping ourselves from growing, from changing.
Like we're putting limits on ourselves before even trying.
And honestly, we can do way more than we think we can. So what if instead of I can't, we say something, more powerful? Like, I haven't learned this yet, or I'm still figuring it out.
I like that. It's not saying you'll never do it, just that you're on the way there.
Exactly. And that small change can help you stay motivated, keep going when things get tough.
It reminds me of that saying, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. What we say really does affect what we believe.
So true. So let's pick words that lift us up, both when we talk to ourselves and to others.
Okay, almost done with the list, but a couple more big ones. Let's do but and. I mean, they're not bad words, but how we use them matters, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's all about the situation and what you're trying to say, but often goes after something positive and it kind of ruins it.
It's like giving a compliment and then taking it back. You did great on that presentation, but I think you could have been more engaging. Oof.
Exactly. The but erases the good stuff you just said.
No.
Makes people feel, I don't know, discouraged.
So what's better?
And swap out the but for and it's way more constructive. You did great on that presentation, and I think we can work together to make it even more engaging.
You're not just criticizing, you're helping. It's about fixing things, not just pointing out what's wrong.
And that's such a good attitude to have, right? At work, anywhere.
All right, got to address the big one. Literally, people misuse this all the time. It's almost funny how wrong it gets.
Yeah, it's become this word people use to emphasize stuff, even when it's not actually true.
Yeah.
But using it wrong makes you sound less credible, like you don't know what you're talking about.
I think it shows how important it is to use the right words. When we choose carefully, we say what we mean more clearly, and it has more impact.
Couldn't agree more. It's about respecting how powerful words are and using them to your advantage. So let's all try to use literally, correctly, and really all words, thoughtfully.
Okay, before we go on, gotta mention kind of and sort of again. They seem small, but they weaken what you're trying to say.
Oh, they're so wishy-washy. They make you sound uncertain, like you don't really care. Imagine telling your boss, I'm kind of excited about this new project. Not exactly inspiring, huh?
Sounds like you'd rather be doing something else.
Exactly. So instead of that, let's use words that are, stronger, more definite, I'm intrigued by that, instead of I'm sort of interested, more specific, more interesting.
And it shows you're really paying attention, involved in the conversation.
Right on. Now, sticking with words that fill space but don't add anything, let's talk about like. It's supposed to connect with people, but it can actually make you sound less smart.
It's so ironic. It's like people say all the time, especially when they're nervous.
But it's even better. Just pausing.
Yes. Silence is way more effective than filling the space with, nothing.
Gives your brain a second to think, so you can choose better words.
And it makes you sound more thoughtful, calm, which can be really powerful.
And while we're at it, how about, this one comes up when we're not sure if the other person's getting what we're saying. We need them to agree with us.
It's like we're doubting ourselves, even though we're the ones with the ideas.
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
You know what you're talking about. You can explain it clearly. Trust yourself. Let that confidence show.
That's a good point. We don't always need someone to tell us we're right. We can just own it.
Exactly. Now, one last thing about how our language affects how we interact with people. We've talked about specific words, but it's also about the vibe we give off.
Right. Sometimes it's not just the words, but how we say them.
Totally. Think about, I have to do this versus I get to do this. It's just a different way of looking at it, but it changes how you feel about it.
It's like turning something you have to do into something you want to do.
It's about feeling like you have control, even when things are tough or boring.
I love that. We really can choose how we see things just by how we talk about them.
And that's kind of the main point of all this. It's not about banning certain words. It's about being aware of what we say, picking words that show what we believe, make us feel confident, and help us really connect with people.
Honestly, I'm kind of fired up now to use all this stuff. It's amazing how just changing a few words can make such a difference in, everything.
It really shows you how powerful language is, right? We don't always realize how much what we say shapes our whole experience.
So for our listeners, what's one thing they can do today to start using all this?
Good question. I think the best way is to just pick one thing, one word from our list that, stood out to you. Maybe you use it too much or you think it's holding you back.
Okay, let's say I pick just. What then?
Try to. Completely stop using it for a week. Mm-hmm. Pay attention to when you want to say it in emails, conversations, even just thinking to yourself.
Like a little challenge? See what happens when you change just one word.
Exactly. I bet you'll be surprised. See how people react when you're more direct, more confident. And notice how it makes you feel. You might find that not saying just makes you sound more sure of yourself. And D actually makes you more confident.
So it's like teaching your brain to use better words by default.
Yeah. And the more you do it, the easier it gets. It's like exercise. The more you use those confident words, the more natural they'll feel.
Makes sense. So it's not about being perfect right away. It's about getting better over time.
Exactly. And hey, you don't have to do this alone. Tell a friend about the episode or a coworker and help each other out. You could even make it fun. Point out when someone slips up.
That's a good idea. It's always easier to stick with something when you have someone to do it with.
And who knows, maybe you'll start this chain reaction of confident communication at work everywhere.
What a great thought. Well, we've definitely given everyone a lot to think about today. It's been, really interesting and inspiring. I feel like I have a whole new understanding of how to use words to be more confident and clear.
It's been great diving into this with you. And to everyone listening, remember, what we say really matters. So let's choose our words carefully. And until next time, stay curious, stay confident, and keep on learning.
All right. So are you ready to really boost your English fluency? I mean, take it to that next level.
Ooh, I like where this is going.
Well, today we're diving deep into phrasal verbs.
Those are essential.
They really are. They're like the secret code to sounding really natural,
Yes.
Especially if you're already pretty comfortable with the basics of English.
Right, you got to get those phrasal verbs down.
Exactly.
And what I think is so fascinating about them is the way they kind of weave themselves into just everyday English.
Yeah, it's like you can't escape them, can you?
No, you can't. And they're not just about casual chit-chat.
Right.
They pop up everywhere. We'll see them in professional settings, travel scenarios, even when you're talking about learning new things or improving yourself.
Yeah, you're right. They're everywhere.
They're everywhere.
We've got 25 essential phrasal verbs to unpack today, and I'm telling you, you'll be surprised by how their meanings can shift depending on the situation.
Yeah, it's true. It's sometimes the same phrasal verb can have so many different meanings.
Right.
If they're these little chameleons.
Right.
Blending in, adding that extra layer of meaning.
Subtle mastery, huh?
Yes. That's what sets apart a fluent speaker.
For sure. So let's start with those everyday conversations, the ones we have all the time. I'm thinking about turn up and run into. They seem so simple on the surface.
Right. Yeah.
But I bet there's more to them than meets the eye.
Oh, absolutely. You're absolutely right. Take turn up, for example.
Okay.
If someone says he didn't turn up for the meeting, that kind of has a negative connotation to it, right?
You're like, where were you?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Implies a lack of responsibility. Maybe even a little bit of disrespect.
For sure.
But, if you're at a party and the volume's too low, you might say, can you turn up the music?
Yeah, that's true.
Same verb, totally different vibe, right?
It is. It's like the context around the phrasal verb, it colors it, gives it that extra layer of meaning.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And run into kind of has that element of chance, like surprise. If you say, I ran into an old friend, that paints a much more vivid picture than just saying oh, I met an old friend.
Right. I see what you mean.
Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, definitely. You can almost feel the surprise and joy in that encounter.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit here. Let's talk about the work and business category.
Okay.
And I noticed in this section, look into and come up with. These are verbs you'd probably hear, in an office setting.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Maybe in a boardroom, who knows?
Yeah. Boardroom, meeting, these verbs are all about clarity and action in a professional setting.
Right. Being efficient.
Efficient. Yeah. If you say, we need to look into this issue that sounds a lot more, proactive. It's more decisive than just saying we need to investigate.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. And come up with, that one's all about that creative problem solving.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It's a good one.
I like that. So it's almost like these phrasal verbs cut through all the fluff.
Yes.
They just get straight to the point, which is so important at work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Especially in a fast-paced environment.
Yeah. And imagine you're in a meeting.
Oh, yeah.
And you're struggling to express those key actions.
It would be painful.
Yeah. So mastering these, can make you a much more effective communicator at work.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so let's get ready to explore the world a little bit. Travel and socializing. When it comes to this, I thought about pick up, and drop off.
Yes.
They're essential for getting around, making plans, you know?
Absolutely. I mean, think about that classic travel phrase. Can you pick me up from the airport?
It's so common.
It's so common.
Yeah.
It's direct. It's clear. It gets the message across.
Effortless.
Yeah, effortless, yeah. And drop off, too. Like, I'll drop you off at the station on my way. Makes, coordinating plans so much smoother.
Yeah, super smooth.
Super smooth.
You know what's interesting about those two is it highlights the social aspect of language, you know?
I know.
If you offer to pick someone up or drop them off, it's more than just the action, you know? It kind of conveys a sense of, I don't know, like helpfulness, consideration.
Right, you're going out of your way for them a little.
Exactly. Okay, and speaking of subtle shifts in meaning, check in. That one seems to have like multiple personalities.
Oh, it does, doesn't it?
Depending on the context.
It does.
Right.
You've hit the nail on the head there. Check in at a hotel, like that's a formal procedure, right? Yeah. But if you say check in with a friend, that's just casual.
Totally different.
Totally different. It implies like that you care.
Right. You're just seeing how they're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a perfect example of how, phrasal verbs just adapt and evolve, They just change.
Yes. Yes, they do. They do.
Depending on the situation. All right, it's time to level up our skills even more. Learning and self-improvement. I'm intrigued by catch up on and figure out, they seem to like capture the essence of personal growth.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, they really do. Catch up on, that kind of implies that you're making an effort, right?
Yeah.
Like a conscious effort to, stay current, expand your knowledge.
Yeah, it's like active learning.
Yes. And figure out, has that problem solving vibe, right?
It's like that aha moment.
Yes. It's about like overcoming challenges, pushing yourself beyond your comfort zone.
Which is like part of personal development, right?
Absolutely. Embracing those aha moments.
Yeah.
And recognizing that, learning it's a journey.
It never ends.
It never ends. What's fascinating is how these verbs kind of empower you to like talk about your learning journey.
Yeah, to actually articulate it.
Yes.
Yeah, I like that.
So thinking about those learning goals, is there a particular phrasal verb from this category that like resonates with you right now?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Something that you could see yourself using, on your self-improvement journey.
Let me think. I think figure out, actually. I like that one because, well, I am always trying to figure out new ways to approach problems.
Yeah.
Or just learn from my experiences.
Absolutely.
It's a verb that shows that continuous growth.
Yes.
Which I find motivating, It never stops.
It never stops.
So I like that one.
It's like figure out becomes a reminder to just stay curious.
Right.
And embrace that whole learning process.
Yeah, exactly. And you never know what you're gonna learn next when you're trying to figure things out.
Exactly.
I like that.
That's a good one.
It really is amazing how much meaning these little verbs pack. They really make our communication so much more dynamic.
They do, yeah. It's like they unlock fluency somehow.
Yeah.
Make English sound, well, more natural.
Speaking of unlocking things, I have a fun idea.
Okay.
How about we do a little quiz just to test what we know about these phrasal verbs so far?
Oh, I love a quiz.
Yeah.
Let's do it. See if our listeners have been paying attention.
Okay, first question. Imagine you're working on a project and it's just not going anywhere. You finally decide to just stop working on it completely.
Like all the time.
Right. So which phrasal verb would you use? Would you say that you gave up on the project or looked into it or maybe turned up at the meeting?
Okay, so we're looking for the verb that means to just like stop completely, abandon it.
Exactly. And the answer is
Gave up.
gave up. Yeah.
Yeah, you gave up on that project.
It definitely doesn't feel good, but
Yeah.
it happens. Sometimes things just don't work out.
It's a fact of life. All right, ready for the next question?
Get me with it.
Okay, so imagine you're trying to understand like a really complex problem
Yeah.
and you want to get to the root of it, like all the little details.
Okay, so like you're really trying to solve it, not just scratch the surface.
Exactly, yeah. So which phrasal verb fits best here? Would you figure out the problem, go over the details, or run into a solution?
So this is all about being really analytical, right? Like really digging into the problem.
Yes, exactly. Thinking it through.
So the answer must be
Go over.
go over. That's right.
Yeah, you're going over all the details.
Okay, last question. You're getting ready to give a presentation
Okay.
and you want to practice it beforehand. Which verb describes that? Would you show up the presentation, come up with a new idea, or maybe run through your speech?
This one is all about getting ready, rehearsing, making sure you know everything.
Yeah. Making sure it all flows, all the pieces are in place.
Exactly. So the answer has to be
Run through.
Yeah. You got to run through that presentation.
Make sure you're prepared for anything.
Exactly.
Well done, listeners. You guys are pros. You're really getting the hang of these verbs.
You're going to be fluent in no time.
But this is just the beginning. I mean, there's so much more out there, when it comes to phrasal verbs.
Oh yeah, so many. It's like a whole other world.
It is like another level of fluency.
It is.
So before we finish our deep dive today, I want to talk about how to actually make these 25 verbs part of your everyday English.
Yeah.
It's one thing to understand them.
Right.
But how do you actually use them naturally,
That's the real challenge. It's all about like bridging that gap between knowledge and actually applying it.
Yeah.
The good news is with phrasal verbs, like they're everywhere.
Yeah.
Just pay attention to how native speakers use them in conversations, in movies, and songs.
Yeah, that's good advice. Like just be more aware.
Be more aware. Yeah, you'll start to notice patterns and kind of pick up on the nuances.
Yeah, it's like immersive learning,
Exactly. And don't be afraid to experiment.
Yeah.
Try using these phrasal verbs in your own conversations.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You might stumble a bit at first.
Yeah, of course.
But that's okay. That's all part of the learning process.
Right, you're not going to get it perfect the first time.
Exactly. Yeah. But the more you practice, the more confident you'll become.
Of course. It's like anything, right? Practice makes perfect.
Exactly.
But sometimes just like jumping in can be a little overwhelming.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips to make the learning process a bit more, organized?
Oh, absolutely. Like a great technique is to use flashcards.
Oh, yeah.
Like write the phrasal verb on one side and then maybe like an example sentence on the other.
Yeah, classic.
Classic, yeah. That way you're not just like memorizing the definition. You're actually seeing it in action.
Right. You see how it works in a sentence.
Exactly, yeah. Another good strategy is to keep like a phrasal verb journal.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Every time you encounter a new one, just jot it down.
Yeah, like your own personal dictionary.
Exactly. And you can add an example sentence too.
Yeah.
You'll be amazed at how quickly your vocabulary will grow.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Before we wrap up completely, I'm just curious, do you have like a go-to phrasal verb? One that you just use all the time?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
I think mine would probably be breakdown.
Oh, yeah.
It's so versatile.
Mm-hmm.
You can break down a problem, you can break down a concept, you can even break down a wall.
Yeah, it's true.
It just means to analyze something, make it more simple, make it more manageable.
Yeah, and it works in so many situations. I think that's what's so cool about phrasal verbs, right?
Yeah.
They're adaptable.
Yes.
And once you start using them, your English just sounds so much more natural.
It really does.
Yeah.
So just remember, this deep dive, this is just the beginning.
Yeah.
Keep exploring, keep practicing, and most importantly, have fun with it.
Yes. Learning should be fun.
It should be fun, yeah.
Yeah.
The more you enjoy it, the more you'll learn.
Absolutely. So as you go about your day-to-day, what phrasal verbs are you going to try to use?
Yeah, good question.
Will you brush up on your skills? Will you look out for some new opportunities?
I might try to dream up a new adventure.
Ooh, I like that one. The possibilities are endless.
They are. It's been so fun diving into the world of phrasal verbs with you.
It has been.
Happy learning, everyone.
And that's a wrap on our exploration of these fascinating little, bundles of words. We hope you feel inspired to embrace phrasal verbs, make them a part of your everyday English, because fluency is a journey, not a destination, right? And every step you take brings you closer to mastering this amazing language. Thanks for joining us. Okay, have you ever felt like native English speakers are just talking way too fast?
Yeah.
It's like they're speaking some kind of secret code or just mumbling.
Great.
You shared a masterclass with me about speaking and understanding faster English, so we are diving into that today.
Yeah, and I think it'll be great to not just figure out how to understand rapid-fire English, but also how to speak it more naturally and fluently ourselves.
For sure. I saw in the source material, they talk about this shadowing technique. Mm-hmm. I'm really curious to learn more about that. But first, why does English sound so fast to non-native speakers in the first place?
I think it's a few different things all coming together at once. One big thing is connected speech.
Okay.
Which is basically how words kind of blend together,
Yeah.
instead of what do you want? It sounds more like what do you wanna?
Yeah. So it's not that the words themselves are faster. It's just they all kind of...
They mush together.
Yeah, they get mashed together, yeah. And then there's all those contractions too, right?
Absolutely. Contractions and reductions are everywhere in natural English. And I think they definitely add to the speed. Things like, going to do, becoming gonna, or want to, shrinking to wanna.
Yeah.
It's like we like to be lazy with our words, but it makes it hard for people to understand.
Yeah. No, what is this schwa thing I keep hearing about?
Yeah, so the schwa...
What is that?
The schwa is a tricky one. It's like this chameleon vowel that changes based on the sounds that are around it.
Oh, okay.
It's this really unstressed, kind of mumbly sound you hear in words. Like the classic example is banana. It's not banana. It's more like bunana.
Yeah.
It just becomes this lazy sound.
So the schwa, it can pop up in any word then.
Yeah.
Not just, banana is the one everyone uses.
It can even happen a bunch of times in the same word. Think of the word photography.
Yeah.
It's not photography. It's more like photography.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah.
The schwa can really change how a word sounds.
It really is like a secret code. I think an audio example would be really good here.
Yeah.
The masterclass actually gives an example of, I should have told you earlier, both at kind of a slower speed and a native speed.
Okay.
So let's listen to that.
Sounds good.
Audio plays, I should have told you earlier, followed by, I should have told you earlier. Yeah. It's crazy.
It does.
It's almost like two different languages. I can totally see why this is a challenge.
Yeah. But what's cool is that you don't necessarily need to hear every single sound
Right.
to get what's being said. Our brains are actually really good at filling in the missing information.
That's good to know because, yes, some of that is impossible to understand. Okay, so how do we train our ears to be better at decoders of all this?
Well, one really good way is to practice something called chunking.
Okay.
And basically, instead of getting stuck on each individual word, you try to hear phrases as units.
Oh.
It's kind of like how we read, right? We're not focusing on each letter. We group the letters into words.
Yeah.
And then phrases.
Can you give me an example?
Yeah, sure. Imagine someone's like, do you want to grab some lunch later?
Yeah.
If you try to pick out every single sound,
Yeah.
it's just a jumble, right?
Yeah.
But if you kind of chunk it together in your mind, you want to grab some lunch later,
Right.
it becomes way more clear.
Oh, yeah.
So you kind of get the big idea.
Yeah, you're listening for the key idea and not every little word.
Exactly.
Cool. That kind of leads into the next thing, right? About listening in layers.
It does, yeah.
This sounds very Zen-like.
It is. It's like, think about listening to a song for the first time. You're not going to catch all the words,
Right.
all the lyrics, all the nuances right away, right?
Yeah.
Same thing with English.
So we're listening to the same thing multiple times.
Yeah.
Okay, and what are the layers?
Well, so on the first pass, you're just listening for the gist. Who's talking? What are they talking about?
Right.
And then on the second listen, you try to pick out keywords that'll give you more context.
Okay.
And then on the third listen, that's when you can really zero in on the tricky bits,
Okay.
the connected speech, maybe those contractions you couldn't quite pick out the first time.
Okay, it's kind of like peeling back an onion, right?
Exactly.
You get a little more information every time.
You got it.
Cool. We actually have a dialogue example in the masterclass that we can use to try this
Perfect.
audio plays. Hey, do you want to grab some coffee? Yeah, but let me finish this first. Cool, I'll meet you in 10.
Okay.
So how would we use this layered listening for this little coffee shop conversation?
Okay, so on that first listen, you're getting, two people are going to get coffee.
Yeah.
Easy. Then on that second layer, you might pick out keywords like coffee, maybe finish this, and then 10 minutes.
Okay.
So now you're getting a better picture of what's going on.
Right.
And then finally, on the third listen, you can really zoom in. Okay, do you want it?
Yeah.
How are they using those contractions and reductions?
Okay, yeah, that makes it much less intimidating.
Yeah.
Breaking it down like that. Now, what about speaking faster? How do we do that without sounding like,
Yeah.
some kind of robot?
Like a robot reading a dictionary.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right. Well, this masterclass talks a lot about sounding natural and fluent, not just talking faster.
Right.
Like you said, we don't want to sacrifice clarity just to sound fast.
Yeah, so are there specific techniques for this?
Well, remember all those contractions and reductions we talked about?
Yeah.
Those are really important for speaking fluently, too.
So instead of saying, I'm going to the store, I should say, I'm going to go to the store.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Oh.
And it might feel a little weird at first.
It does.
But I promise it just makes your English sound smoother and more effortless.
Okay. But how do we actually get used to doing that?
Right. Well, that's where that shadowing technique comes in.
Okay.
So you are going to be like a vocal chameleon. You listen to a native speaker.
Yeah. Say a phrase or a sentence. You pause it, and then you try to repeat exactly what they said,
Okay.
matching their pronunciation, intonation, and speed.
So, okay. So like, what are you doing? I should say more like, what you doing?
Perfect, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And you can start slow, and then as you get more comfortable, you can speed it up.
That's cool. Are there any other techniques we can use?
Yeah. Another one is linking.
Okay.
So like native speakers, we just do it naturally, but it's something that you might have to practice consciously if you're learning.
Okay.
So like, for instance, not at all often becomes not at all.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So the tan sound from not blends with that vowel sound of at.
Oh, that's so subtle. Wow.
It is.
I want to try a little fast reading challenge. Can I?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So the source material has the sentence, would you like to go to the movies later?
Yeah.
How would a native speaker actually say that?
Probably something like, would ya? Like, go to the movies later.
Wow, that's a mouthful. Okay, so I'm noticing would you becomes would ya, to is like ta, and the like disappears before movies.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's all about those smooth transitions.
Yeah. Okay. I can already tell I need to practice that one. We've been practicing here in this nice, perfect little world, right?
Right.
How do we take this into the real world where there's all kinds of accents and people talking at all different speeds?
That is the real challenge, right? Because the real world is full of all these variations, different accents, slang, speaking styles.
Yeah.
It's really like taking what you learned in the classroom and then...
throwing yourself into the deep end.
Exactly.
Yeah, I remember that feeling.
Yeah.
It was like scary. So what advice does the masterclass have for us for bridging that gap?
Well, I mean, really, it's about exposure and practice.
Okay.
The more you immerse yourself in the language, the more prepared you'll be to handle those real-world variations.
What are some good ways to get that real-world practice?
Well, they talk about watching TV shows and movies.
Oh.
You can start with the subtitles on to get the gist, and then challenge yourself.
Right.
Turn the subtitles off. See how much you could understand.
Yeah, I find even watching with English subtitles like helps me pick up stuff I might not have noticed otherwise.
Yeah, for sure. And then there's podcasts,
Okay.
which are great because you can adjust the speed.
Right.
You can start slow, work your way up.
What about actually talking with native speakers?
Well, that's the best practice you can get, right?
Right.
Find language exchange partners, maybe join some groups online, or even, if you're brave enough, strike up conversations with people you meet.
I remember I was so scared to talk to native speakers when I was learning English.
Yeah.
But I realized, like, pretty quickly, most people are really patient and they appreciate the effort you're making.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it really is about just building that confidence and not being afraid to, like, mess up.
For sure. Don't be afraid to ask people to slow down or repeat themselves.
Yeah.
People are happy to help.
Yeah. So we really need to embrace that messiness, right? It's going to be messy. It's not going to be perfect.
Absolutely.
Now, the masterclass has one final challenge for us before we wrap up this first part of our deep dive.
Okay.
They want us to imagine we're hanging out with friends, and they ask, hey, deal up for a movie tonight.
Fun.
Okay, I'm ready for this challenge. Let's hear it.
Okay.
Audio plays. Hey, you're up for a movie tonight. Don't know. What's playing? That new sci-fi one looks cool. All right, let me check the show times.
Oh, casual, fast English.
So what techniques are we hearing in this?
Okay, well, right away we hear that contraction, ya,
Right.
instead of you, and then what's playing. It combines like what is and playing into one little chunk.
I noticed they're saying do know instead of don't know, and then
Yeah.
let me instead of let me.
It's amazing how those little things make such a big difference.
Yeah, it's like a little puzzle.
It is.
All these pieces, you can even hear that linking, like looks cool becomes looks cool. That's so cool. Okay, so now the challenge is to imagine how we would respond
Yes.
using everything we've talked about.
Exactly, and there's no one right answer.
Right.
It's about using what you've learned and seeing how you can apply it to this conversation.
So we're leaving you with that challenge for now, dear listener. How would you respond to this invitation to go to the movies? We'll explore this more in the next part of our deep dive.
You know, it's crazy to think about how all these like tiny little things, the contractions, the schwa sound linking, it all adds up to make English sound so fast.
Right.
But at the end of the day, like, it's not really about speed, is it?
No, not really. It's more about understanding each other.
Right, being able to communicate.
Exactly.
I think that's easy to forget when you get so caught up in like the rules and the technical stuff.
It's easy to get bogged down in that.
Yeah.
And forget why we're even learning the language.
Totally. I like that this masterclass really focuses on that, like the human element of language. Yeah. It does. It gives some good advice about how to turn all this stuff we're talking about into like real fluency.
That's what I'm curious about, because I feel like I've hit walls so many times where I'm just like, I'm not getting any better. Like, what's the secret to getting over those plateaus?
Well, it's not really a secret. I think a lot of people they don't do it.
Yeah.
But it's practice.
Yeah.
It's consistent practice.
Okay, so not just like cramming.
Right, not just cramming a bunch of words and grammar rules.
Right, yeah.
But really making it a habit.
Okay, yeah. So what would a good practice routine look like? Say I'm like just starting out.
Well, I mean, even if you could just do like 15, 20 minutes a day of focused listening.
Okay.
That's huge. It could be podcasts, TV shows, whatever you enjoy.
Right.
You could even just listen to conversations happening around you.
Right. That's such a good, like, easy tip, you know?
It is. It is.
You don't need anything special for that.
Just like go to a coffee shop, listen to people talking.
Yeah. Exactly. What about for speaking practice?
Speaking practice is a little tougher.
Yeah.
Because you have to actually,
find someone to talk to.
Yeah.
Right?
But there's a lot of groups online.
Uh-huh.
Language exchange apps and things like that.
Yeah.
You could even record yourself speaking and then listen back.
I used to do that.
Yeah.
It's so helpful.
Right. You catch all these little mistakes.
It is a little cringy, though.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
But it's like having your own little language coach.
It is. And you said it earlier, too. It's okay to make mistakes.
Absolutely. That's how we learn.
That's how we learn,
Yeah. Now let's talk about the shadowing technique. We kind of touched on it earlier. Can you explain a little bit more about how that works and why it's so good?
It's basically karaoke for language learning.
Okay.
You listen to a native speaker.
Yeah.
Try to repeat exactly what they're saying.
Okay.
Matching their rhythm, intonation, everything.
So it's like a workout for your mouth?
It is. It is. Getting it to do all those weird sounds.
Exactly. And you could do it with anything.
Oh, okay.
Like a podcast, a song,
Oh, cool.
a scene from a movie.
That sounds fun. What are some tips for making practice in general more interesting?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times people think of it as a chore, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's important to find stuff that you're actually interested in.
Right.
Like if you love to cook, watch cooking shows in English. If you're a sports fan, listen to sports commentary.
It's so true. Like when it's something I like, it feels like I'm like not even trying.
Right, because you're actually paying attention.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, just find ways to connect your interests with language learning.
Right. It shouldn't be boring.
No, it should be fun.
Yeah. Even when we are enjoying it, I feel like we all hit those like plateaus. Yeah. How do we deal with that?
Well, I think it's important to remember that progress isn't always like a straight line, You're going to have times when you feel like you're rocketing forward and times where you feel like you're just stuck.
Yeah, like going backwards almost.
Right. And that's totally normal.
Yeah.
But you can't give up.
Right.
Just keep practicing and trust the process.
It's like when you're working out, right?
It is. You
hit those plateaus. It's like, I'm doing all this and nothing's happening.
Right. But just like with fitness, consistency is key.
Okay.
Just keep at it.
And celebrate those like little wins, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to get focused on this big like end goal.
Yeah.
And forget how far you've come.
Right. It's like looking at old pictures of yourself like, oh my God.
Exactly. You make so much progress.
Yeah. And that actually brings us to like confidence. Right.
It does.
Because when you can understand and be understood, you feel more confident. You feel more like able to.
You're not just a passive observer. You're an active participant.
Yeah. A whole new world opens up, basically.
It does. It does.
Yeah. Okay. So we've talked about a lot of technical stuff.
We have.
And resources and even like the emotional and social benefits of being fluent. I know this masterclass has one last challenge for us before we wrap up this section of our deep dive.
Okay. I'm ready.
So, remember that movie night situation we talked about?
Yeah.
Our friends invited us to go to a movie.
Yeah, they asked you up for a movie tonight.
And we heard all the back and forth about, what's playing and everything.
What time? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so now the challenge is, what would you say? There's no script this time.
No, I like it.
Just like, what would you say?
It's like they're saying, okay, here are all the tools. Now you go.
Exactly, yeah.
Make something beautiful.
Yeah.
It's your turn.
Yeah. And I think that's what this whole deep dive is about, right?
There it is, yeah.
It's not about memorizing.
Yeah.
It's about being able to actually use the language.
It's about empowering you to use the language.
Yeah, yeah. So, dear listener, that's the challenge for you. Put yourself back in that situation.
Yep.
What would you say? How would you use these techniques we've talked about?
Yeah, don't overthink it.
Yeah.
Just like, what's your gut reaction?
Yeah.
Have fun with it.
I love that. Okay, I'm going to try.
Okay.
So if my friends asked if I was up for a movie, I might say, yeah, totally. What are we thinking of watching?
Perfect.
I'm using a contraction.
You are.
I'm keeping it casual.
You are.
And I'm expressing enthusiasm.
Yes, you are.
I love it. And I'm already feeling more confident just thinking about,
I love that.
using all this stuff.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about, right? Is finding your own voice.
Yeah.
And just being comfortable.
Awesome. So, dear listener, we want you to find your voice.
Yes.
Experiment, try new things, push yourself out of your comfort zone a little bit.
And remember, fluency is not like an end point.
Right.
It's an ongoing journey.
It is, yeah.
Full of ups and downs. And,
Yeah.
and it's all about connection,
It is, yeah.
Connecting with other people.
Okay, I think this is a good place to take a quick break, and then we'll come back and wrap up our deep dive into speaking and understanding fast English. I'm still thinking about that movie night challenge.
Yeah,
I like how it makes us actually, use what we learned.
it is. It's a good way to, bridge the gap
Yeah.
between the ideas and actually putting it into practice.
Totally. It reminds us this isn't just about, memorizing rules. It's
Yeah.
about, using language to actually talk with people.
Right. Language is about connection.
Yeah. This deep dive has been awesome.
Yeah.
Can we do a quick recap of what we talked about?
Yeah, for sure.
Just to make sure I've got all the key takeaways.
Okay, well, I think the first thing to remember is that speed is just one part of being fluent.
Okay.
You don't want to just talk fast.
Yeah.
You got to be clear.
Yeah.
And you got to sound natural.
Right. So it's a balance.
Exactly.
Okay. And one way to do that is using all those contractions and reductions.
Yeah, definitely. Those are super important.
Yeah.
They really make your English flow.
Now, what about chunking?
Oh, yeah, chunking's huge.
Yeah.
Training yourself to hear those chunks of words instead of every single word.
It's like we're upgrading our brains.
It is. It's like a software update
Yeah.
for your ears.
That's a good way to put it. And then we have that layered listening approach. First the gist, then the keywords, then all that subtle details.
Right, like connected speech and all that.
Okay, and then for speaking, we've got that shadowing technique.
Ah, yes, shadowing.
That was really cool. Like having a pronunciation coach in your ear.
Exactly. And you can do it with anything.
Right, any material that interests you.
Yeah.
So we've got all the tools. Now what's the secret to putting this all together? What's the magic formula?
Well, again, it's not really a secret. It's consistent practice.
Oh.
Finding things that you enjoy.
Right. It should be fun.
It should be fun, yeah. It shouldn't feel like a chore.
Totally. Because when it's fun, you actually want to do it.
Exactly. And you'll learn faster that way, too.
Yeah. So find things that you're into, like movies, podcasts.
Yeah. Or connect with other people who are learning.
Yeah.
You can all practice together.
Now we all know fluency isn't you don't just arrive there one day.
No, it's a journey.
Yeah.
With lots of twists and turns.
Yeah. And we're going to mess up along the way.
Oh, for sure.
You just got to keep going.
Absolutely. Celebrate the wins and learn from the mistakes.
I think that's a great way to wrap up our deep dive.
Yeah.
So, dear listener, hopefully this has given you some new ideas for how to take your English to the next level.
Yeah. Keep practicing and keep exploring.
And keep connecting with people.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, language is about connecting.
So true. That's it for our deep dive into speaking and understanding fast English.
Thanks for joining us.
We'll see you next time.